Transmigrated is a ghost chapter 26 to 50. See 26 to 25 planting evidence and protecting the pot. When Paulson had led Marcus to the door, he opened it acting like a gentleman, but as Marcus was walking through the door, he felt a pair of eyes locked directly on his rear. Ow, I know that it is hard to not stare at a pretty woman, but this guy is oozing creep energy. He plays his nice guy facade well, but as a fellow man I can easily see through it. Marcus then followed Paulson around the base, seeing the barracks, the mess hall, and then the weapons depot. Wow, they have all manner of weapons from swords and spears to war hammers and whips. I guess in a world where people get varied skills, they will have proficiencies with a number of different weapons. Seeing Marcus's fascinated gaze, Paulson began speaking about the weapons that the town guard have. I can see you are interested in the weapons we have here. These are the mass-produced weapons that all of the guards have access to, and when you join you can pick one out. Of course, the higher quality and special weapons are stored elsewhere and can only be accessed by an officer like me. Though it should not take you long to become an officer, and once you do, I can help you obtain one of the special weapons we have. Wow, this guy, he has already decided I will be joining, and he plans to put me in his debt. This is definitely not the first time he has done this. Paulson went around picking up weapons and letting Marcus try them out and see which ones he had the best affinity for. Of all the weapons I have tried, the spear feels the best, but there is still something about it that does not quite feel right. Oh well, I can figure out my main weapon later since I have no intention of joining the guard anyways. Continuing to be herded around by Paulson, Marcus saw just about everything the guard headquarters had to offer before Paulson told him he had one more place he wanted to show him. Calling for a carriage, Paulson had Marcus get on and they began traveling towards the outskirts of the town. Where the hell are we going? Is he just taking me straight to his house? I have not even agreed to any such thing. I have tried to make myself seem as interested as I can without giving a commitment. Do not tell me he has given up and decided to just take me to some kind of sex dungeon. While Marcus was thinking about possible horrible fantasies, the carriage he was riding in hit a bump in the road, pushing Marcus into Paulson. He then saw the driver look back and give a little smirk, and Marcus quickly separated himself from Paulson. That bastard did that on purpose. How many women has this guy done this to? After that, Marcus made sure to keep a good grip on the side of the carriage to not let himself be moved around again. Soon after, the carriage stopped right at the city walls and Paulson said, "Here we are. The town wall is the final thing I wanted to show you. The view from up there is magnificent, and only guard personnel are allowed up there, so normally it would not be something you could see." Leading Marcus through the guard station and up a set of stairs, the two of them soon came to the top of the wall, where Marcus got a breathtaking view of the scenery. After staring out for a while, Paulson guided Marcus over to a device that was mounted on top of the wall. This here is one of the mana cannons that is placed at intervals on top of the wall. It is used to fire a projectile of pure magic and is very useful during the occasional monster attacks on the town. Since you have the magic circulation skill when you join the guards, you may even be able to man one. Wow, now that is cool. I am almost tempted to join just to have a chance to fire this thing, but I can probably find one later down the road, especially since I can live forever. Once Paulson had finished giving the tour around the top of the walls, he asked Marcus a question. "So, what do you think? Impressive, right? Have I convinced you to join the guard? I guarantee that you will enjoy it. I really am tempted and probably will take you up on your offer, but I need to talk to my family down south first, since I did tell them I would be coming to work with them. Once I have done that, I will come back up here, and we can discuss more about me joining." At Marcus's reply, Paulson seemed visibly angry, with a vein on his head throbbing. However, this lasted only for a brief few moments before he collected himself and responded. "Very well, I understand. Then how about I treat you to dinner tonight? My chef is an excellent cook, and I would love to get to know you better." Got him hook, line, and sinker. Now all I have to do is successfully navigate the night and plant the evidence. Of course, I would be happy to have dinner with you tonight. I guess it has started to get late and I am quite hungry. The slight bit of anger left Paulson's face, and he and Marcus made their way back to the carriage that had been driving them around. Once inside, the carriage began its route towards Paulson's manor. The carriage took what seemed like over an hour to finally arrive at Paulson's manor, and the sun was already setting. I think he intentionally took a longer route to waste time. He almost certainly plans to keep me here till dark so he can insist I stay the night. Seeing the 3-story manor house, Marcus was quite impressed by its size. While he is not a noble for nothing, I think this house is over 15,000 square feet, and he had an impressive garden as well. There are even servant quarters on the left side of the lot, and it is up against the river. While marveling at the beauty of Palson's estate, Palson soon grew a bit impatient and started to usher Marcus inside. Once inside, Marcus was led to a large dining room and sat down at one end of a small table before Palson took the other. He really planned this well. I can tell by the grooves in the floor that there is usually a much larger table and that he has this table brought out when he is trying to seduce a woman. I hope you do not mind, my chef is making an elaborate dish tonight and it may take a while for the main course to be served, however we have plenty of aperitifs to sustain us until then. Adds by PubFuture. A server then brought out many appetizers to eat, such as a fish soup, some white bread, and even a few fruits. While all of it looked really delicious, Marcus trusted Palson about as far as he could throw his whole house. Marcus would pretend to eat by sticking the food into his mouth and pretending to chew it before shoving it into his item box. He continued to do this even for the main dish that looked like it came out of a high-class restaurant. While that steak and those mashed potatoes looked delicious, I cannot take any chance that this guy might drug me. He may act all nice and friendly, but he is a snake waiting to strike when his prey is vulnerable. I trialed a lot of guys just like him back on Earth for sexual assault, and I know he would do anything to accomplish his goal. After finishing their meal, Palson looked a little tense but soon said to Marcus, "Well, look at the time. I am afraid that I have kept you for a very long time and it is already night. It might be a bit dangerous for you to take the long walk back on your own. I insist that you spend the night here. It is no trouble for me. Here it is. He has been setting me up for this play for the very beginning. I may need to use drastic measures, but I have to avoid ending up in the same room as him." Palson then led Marcus upstairs and at the top of the stairs abruptly turned around, pushed Marcus's hair back and went in for a kiss. Marcus's mind then went into overdrive trying to think of a way out of this predicament. Shit, think fast, I have to do something. Ow, this is going to hurt, but it is better than being kissed by this sleaze bag. Right before their lips touched, Marcus thought of a way out and pretended to slip back, falling down the stairs. On the way down he made sure to cause as much damage to himself as possible, since normally with his stats a fall though the stairs would only give minor injuries. He bashed his head and limbs into stairs and the railing. He made sure to slam himself as hard as he could onto each stair and did not stop until he reached the bottom. Once he had a second to recover his thoughts, Marcus began to assess the damage he caused. Oh wow. I have multiple broken bones, my left hand is at an odd angle, my head is profusely bleeding and my HP is down to around 40%. At least there is no way he is going to try to sleep with me tonight. Palson frantically bounded down the stairs after Marcus, opening up a pouch on his belt and taking out a bottle with a slightly glowing blue liquid. When he reached Marcus, he shoved the bottle into his mouth, forcing him to drink. Marcus did his best to try and store the liquid into his item box before it went down his throat, but about half of it got by. He then started to feel a cool sensation in his body as his wounds started to close and some of his bones could even be heard creaking back into place. After checking his status, he saw that in just a number of seconds he had healed around 20% of his health. Irene, are you okay? You took a nasty fall there. Do you need another healing potion? Panicking a little, not wanting to be fully healed, Marcus got up onto his feet, gritted his teeth and snapped his broken arm back into place before responding to Palson. No, it is fine, you do not need to waste another potion on me. The first one has already helped a lot and I have a self-healing skill, so after a good night's sleep I will be fully recovered. Looking a bit disheartened, Palson agreed and led Marcus to a guest bedroom on the first floor, saying that he would leave a servant outside the room in case Marcus needed anything. Okay, I managed to get through that. Now all I need to do is find a place to plant these documents. Marcus then exited Irene's body and floated up through the ceiling to the second floor. The room he came into seemed to be some type of office and Marcus began looking around for a good place to hide the documents before he zeroed in on a suspicious painting. I wonder, people on Earth would often hide safes behind paintings. Marcus then phased through the painting into the wall behind it and passed through one safe and into another. Ah, the old safe behind another safe. If my momentum had not carried me a bit farther than I intended, I would have only seen the first safe, but now I know about the second. Searching through the first safe, Marcus found many gems and gold coins, but the second was full of documents with letters and ledgers proving Pelson's shady dealings. That guy was right, he really is corrupt. He often takes bribes to lower security at certain times in order to allow illegal goods to pass in and out of the town. As long as they are not sold in the town, there would be no extra investigation once they made it in and then out. He even received a large payment 3.5 weeks ago to allow for a slave transport to not be searched on its way in and then out. So, he was an accomplice in helping those slave traders. I now have lost even the last dregs of guilt I had for framing him. After leaving the incriminating documents in the safe, Marcus took 12 gold coins and placed them into his item box, expecting that such a small amount, only around 1%, would not be noticed. He then floated back down and re-entered Irene's body before falling into a deep sleep. In order to recover, see 27-26 Clash. After sleeping for many hours, Marcus woke up feeling a lot better and being back up to full HP. He quickly got up and changed his clothes before trying to swiftly leave Pelson's manor. I need to get out of here quickly. The longer I stay, the more likely something bad is going to happen. Once I get out, I can report back to that shady royal investigator and get the rest of the information I need. Luckily for Marcus, when he came out, Pelson was in an important meeting, and he was able to get one of his servants to allow him to leave the premises without any hassle. After escaping from Pelson's house, Marcus made a beeline for the Invincible Tortoise Inn. It was a fairly long walk, but after around an hour of searching around, Marcus found his meeting place. Once inside, he walked up the stairs and went back to his room, and when he entered, a familiar cloaked figure was waiting for him. "So, how did it go? Were you successful in your assignment?" "Yes, I was actually more than successful, since I found actual incriminating evidence as well as planting what you gave." "Oh, I am surprised you actually found where he keeps evidence of his illegal transaction. You are a lot better than I thought. Now would you mind telling me where this evidence is, and I will begin my raid immediately." Marcus then went on to describe where the incriminating documents could be found and how there was a second safe behind the first one. "I see, that is how he did it. No wonder I could not find any evidence on my first raid. He had it hidden quite well. I really am not sure how you managed to find this second safe, but it does not matter to me as long as I can complete my job. Okay, since I have held up my end of the deal, I would like my payment. You told me you would give me more information on those slavers I am interested in." "Yes, I am a man of my word. However, I will need to hold on to that information a little longer until I have verified that you really completed your assignment." "Fine, then let us go right now so I can put all of this behind me." Leaving the invulnerable tortoise, Marcus and the royal investigator headed towards Pelson's manor, and once it came into sight, the royal investigator told Marcus to find somewhere nearby to wait because it would be too dangerous for him to proceed any further. Marcus then watched as the royal investigator took off his cloak, revealing his young mid-20s appearance, blue uniform, and golden hair. As he began approaching the manor, more men in blue uniforms joined him until there were around 12 of them. Being curious, Marcus slowly inched closer towards the manor to get a better look at the raid. Marcus saw the 12 blue uniformed men open the gates and start searching around the premises. He soon saw Pelson appear before the golden-haired royal investigator, and he was yelling so loud that even Marcus could hear him. "Damn you, wait, I do not care if you are the king's nephew, I will have your badge for this. You did not find anything last time and you will not this time either. At this point you are just harassing me and ruining my reputation." Ads by PubFuture. Rare Bo Jackson Triple Error 1990 Donruss All-Star No.tm after INCKC Royals. eBay US. Marcus continued to watch, seeing Pelson follow Wade into the house as the raid continued. After a few minutes, Marcus heard a loud shout coming from the second floor of the manor. "Fuck you, I will kill you. Wade, you bastard." I guess Wade found the evidence and Pelson is not happy about it. After Pelson's loud shout, the entire manor seemed to tremble before there was a loud icy explosion on the second floor. Marcus watched as Wade jumped out of the manor coated in a thin layer of ice and holding a pitch-black wicked-looking dagger. Pelson soon followed, now holding an ornate blue spear that was emitting a frosty aura. Once the two had landed on the ground, they began to fight at a speed that Marcus could only catch glimpses of, as Pelson tried to skewer Wade while Wade defended with his dagger. The two continued to exchange blow after blow, neither being able to cause a decisive injury. However, with his longer reach, Paulson had managed to keep Wade from going on the offensive and soon managed to make an opening. As he thrust his spear aiming to pierce Wade directly through the heart, Wade suddenly disappeared into the shadows only to reappear a distance away. Now that he was at a safer distance, he took out 5 throwing knives and started throwing them at Paulson. Paulson blocked each of the knives thrown at him, and when he had just deflected the 4th one, he yelled, "Die!" before lunging his spear into the ground, and the area Wade was standing froze into an ice pillar around 8 feet tall, encapsulating him. "Ha, I win. You may have ruined my life, but I ended yours. I may have to hide in the underworld now, but I can still live the life of a king." While reveling in his apparent victory, Paulson's face suddenly turned to horror when he watched the frozen body turn into shadows. Sensing danger behind him, Paulson hurriedly turned around to see the 5th throwing knife coming towards him. He managed to bring up his spear to block in the nick of time, before he started to chant a spell. At the same time, Wade had also started chanting his own spell. Unfortunately, Paulson finished his first, and a massive serpent made of water lunged towards Wade. Wade, however, calmly kept chanting and threw a black orb towards the serpent. When the two met, the orb sucked the serpent into it like a black hole before shattering, and in that moment, Wade finished his spell and the 5 daggers around Paulson grew darker before pitch-black chains erupted from them and entangling him. "I am afraid it is you who have lost. Had you just come quietly, you may have been able to avoid a severe punishment because of your father's status, but trying to kill a royal investigator is likely to get you executed." Paulson then began to curse Wade and try to break out of his restraints. When he started a chant to cast a desperate spell, the chains quickly moved to close his mouth, canceling the spell. Soon the other members of Wade's team came over and put more restraints around Paulson until he was completely emasculated. Defeated and in chains, Paulson was dragged away from his manor that looked like it was now part of a war zone. Damn, so that is what a battle between 2 higher level people looks like. They moved so fast I could barely see them, and the magic they were using makes my spells look like parlor tricks. That water serpent in particular was about the size of a semi-truck, but Wade managed to deal with it easily using some type of magic item. I really wonder how strong I would have been if I had been level 40. While staring at the aftermath of the battle and thinking about the epic battle he just witnessed, Marcus's attention shifted when he noticed Wade approaching. When Wade arrived in front of him, he took out a few items from a magic pouch on his belt and handed them to Marcus. "Here you go. These documents have details on the slavers you have an interest in, and since you did such a good job, you can have these as well. Here is that fire magic book you wanted, and this is a letter of recommendation from me. If you are ever interested in joining the Royal Investigators, go to the capital and find the investigators' headquarters and show them this letter. Though right now your level is a bit low, in the future you could make a great investigator. If you want to go to Lorsend, I recommend you join the Adventurers Guild and find a job as a guard protecting a caravan. The road there is heavily traveled and many monsters and bandits attack people on the route. If you go alone at your level, you are bound to die. Well, it has been a pleasure doing business with you and I hope to see you again." Marcus thanked Wade for the extra rewards before the two parted, heading on their separate ways. See 28 to 27 upgrades. While walking away from Wade after receiving his reward, Marcus heard a familiar ding in his head. "You have leveled up to level 10. Wait, what? I just leveled up. I guess that was quite the ordeal and worthy of getting me a level up. So, I have finally made it to level 10, though after watching that fight, level 10 does not really feel like that much of a milestone." Marcus checked his log and found the notification of the achievement he had just completed. Successfully plant evidence against a much more powerful entity to get them arrested without letting them taste any honey and receive substantial rewards. After completing my first achievement, I thought it was a bit of a weird message, but this one clenches it. There is no way these are automated, and that administrator is still messing with me. I really must be some form of entertainment for them. Whatever, now that I have some more stat and skill points, I should go and pick out a weapon to use, since in close combat I am at a disadvantage without one. Marcus then proceeded towards the weapon shop he had made note of during his first day. Once he arrived, he headed in and started looking around at their weapons. They had plenty of swords, spears, axes, and bows, but Marcus had already tried all of these weapons before and none of them felt quite right. "I really cannot pin it down, but I absolutely need a weapon. I guess I should just go with the spear, it felt pretty good even if it was not perfect." While getting ready to give into the spear, Marcus noticed a lone weapon that was suspended on the back wall. He could immediately tell that this was the weapon he had been looking for. A scythe? How could I have not thought of that earlier? I am a ghost, so of course my weapon would have to be a scythe. A part of me wants to pick another weapon just to spite the system administrator, but I know I will regret not having my best weapon. Marcus then walked over towards the scythe and took it off the wall. Once in his hands, he could feel how comfortable it was. He gave it a few swings and instantly knew he was not being delusional. This was the weapon he was meant to have. It feels pretty good. Even with my amateur eyes I can tell how well made it is with its dark wood handle, and I think the blade is made of steel. It is not ornate in any way, but it feels solid. I hope I have enough money to buy it. I did liberate a dozen gold from Pelsen's safe, so I probably have enough. Marcus then headed towards the front counter to purchase the scythe, eliciting a surprised expression from the owner when he saw the weapon Marcus was carrying. "Ah, you found one of the best pieces of work in here. While not many people use such a weapon, this one is exceptionally well made, so it will cost you 16 gold coins. 16 gold, it is just a steel scythe. You have steel swords going for as low as 2 gold. Why is this scythe so expensive? This is not just any old scythe, its handle is made from the wood of a nightmare tree ant, and the blade is not just a simple steel but is a bronze steel alloy that conducts mana better. Other than the few enchanted weapons I have, this is the best piece in my shop. Great, just when I find a good weapon, I do not have enough money to buy it. It also does not appear that many people use scythes, so even if I check other shops, I may not find another one. I guess it is time for a bit of good old-fashioned negotiating. I admit it is a good scythe, but this thing was sitting on the back wall and had dust on it. You have probably had it for years, and I am the first person to be seriously interested in it. However, I only have 12 gold. You can either take it or this scythe can sit around for another few years before another person like me eventually comes in." After heavily considering it for a while, the weapon store owner decided to sell the scythe to Marcus for 12 gold. "Fine, you can have it. I bought it for 11 gold 8 years ago and no one else has wanted it. Just do not think I am a pushover, because the next time you buy a weapon from me, I will not be giving any discounts." Marcus handed the man 12 gold and stored the scythe in his item box, making the owner jump with a start and stare at Marcus like he was some type of exotic animal. "Whoops, I forgot that item boxes are pretty rare and that I should not casually show it off. Oh well, I got my new weapon even if it cost me most of my money. I should be able to afford some cheap supplies with what I have left, and with my iron skin spell I did not really need armor anyway." Leaving the shop, Marcus headed back to the invulnerable tortoise to look over his rewards. Once he entered the premises he stopped and thought, "Wait, how long am I even allowed to stay here? I only have a room here because of my business with Wade. I guess I will stay until I need to leave, or they kick me out." Marcus headed up to his room, sat down on the bed and took out the rewards he got from completing his assignment. He mulled over whether he should look at the magic book or intelligence report first. "I think I should go with the magic first. Making myself stronger is always a good option, and the info on the slavers will not help me until I make it to Lorsend anyways." Grabbing the book like an excited kid opening a present, Marcus opened the book and started reading through it, but after reading the first 10 pages Marcus's enthusiasm began to waver. "This thing has been worthless so far. It has mostly described how to start to learn the basics of magic and ways to obtain the fire magic skill. I already have the skills necessary for magic, so I do not need to stare at a fire for hours to understand its essence. The only thing I am looking for are new spells, not this crap." Once he had gotten to the last few pages, Marcus had a slight amount of relief. At the end of the book there were the chants and formations for 3 spells Marcus did not have: Flame Blade, Exploding Fire Shot, and Floating Lantern. 3 new spells, though I have already seen Exploding Fire Shot and it is not that impressive, and Floating Lantern is just a floating fire shot I can use as a light. At least Flame Blade is kind of cool and has some uses, and with my current spirit stat it is around 3 feet long. Before I forget, I should use my skill and stat points. After spending his stat points as usual, Marcus scrolled down his skill list searching for something specific. When he came across it, he was pleasantly surprised by what he found. Scythemanship, Superior, a skill for those with the highest talent in using the scythe. Cost: 1 skill point. Nice, this skill looks perfect, and it is only 1 skill point for me. Now I have my main weapon and multiple magic spells to use as well as a slew of utility skills. I think it is time I spend my skill points to upgrade my current skills rather than buying new ones. Marcus then purchased the Scythe skill and spent his remaining 2 points to raise it to level 2. Ads by PubFuture. Ellie de la Cruz 2024 Top Series 1 Silver Pack RC Rookie Red Refractor Auto 5. eBay US. Me. Happy and kind-hearted. Amour Factory US. Only 3 skill points for a level 2 skill. What a steal. It has been a while since I looked at my status, so let's see how I am doing. Status. Name. Marcus Ferris. Age. 28. Race. Unbound Ghost Human Irene Soul Tethered. Level. 10. HP. 460 460ths minus 310 310ths. MP. 410 410ths. STR. 10 plus 22. AGL. 34. VIT. 10 plus 21. Int. 41. SPR. 43 plus 3. Stat points. 0. Skill points. 0. Unique skills. Personal status. Skills. Small item box. Lesser regeneration LVL1. Digging LVL1. Fighting LVL2. Magic circulation LVL2. Iron magic LVL2. Disassembly LVL2. Stealth LVL2. Lightning magic LVL1. Creature appraisal LVL1. Fire magic LVL1. Danger sense LVL2. Dark vision LVL1. Scythemanship. Superior LVL2. Blessing of Iron. Race abilities. Invisible, Ethereal, Chill Zone, Float, Possession, Undying. Possessed race abilities. Spectre powers. Ghost sounds. Nice. I am looking pretty strong. I doubt there is anyone at my level 1 cannot beat. Now though it is time to look at the information I got on those slavers, and then I will head to register with the Adventurers Guild. Hopefully, there will be a caravan heading towards Lorsend that leaves soon. Every day makes it less likely I find Lilia. See 29 to 28 Information and Adventurers Guild. Play volume ad. Now that Marcus had read the magic book and sorted out his skills and stats, he opened the envelope and took out a single piece of paper. Onder Slavers. Leader name Onder approximate level 20, main weapon broadsword, magic skills unknown. Lieutenants Osman approximate level 15, main weapon blade tipped whip, magic skills unknown. Tyrell approximate level 17, main weapon staff, magic skills fire, air, and smoke. Average number of members 14, approximate average level 11, most common weapons sword, and spear. Estimated base location, west side of Lorsend in Warehouse District. Believed to be backed by a low-ranking noble or other influential person. Ads by PubFuture. Have proper slave trading credentials but never purchase any slaves to resell. Under suspicion of committing multiple acts of murder, kidnapping, and illegal slave trading but cannot confirm. Known locations the group frequents: the Grand Iron Inn, River Landing, the Turtle Tap Tavern, River Landing, the Fair Sunset Tavern, Lorsend. After reading through the report multiple times to make sure he had memorized it, Marcus started to plan out his next moves. Okay, the report was simple and to the point, and I now have a good amount of information. I may not know their exact location, but at least now I have a few places to start instead of having to search an entire city. Now that I think about it, is pretty impressive that they had this much information when these guys are based in a whole other city. I should head to the Adventurers Guild and sign up so that I can join an escort mission to Lorsend. Once I arrive, I can track these guys down, and the Fair Sunset Tavern should be a good place to start. Once he had finished collecting his thoughts, Marcus gathered his belongings into his item box, left the inn, and headed for the Adventurers Guild. On the way there he realized he would need certain supplies for the long journey ahead, so he stopped and bought around 2 weeks of rations as well as a sleeping mat and some blankets. I spent 63 copper just now, so I only have 4 silver and 11 copper left, but I should be able to make some more money as an adventurer later on. For now, I should be ready for the journey, since from what I have heard it takes around 12 days by land. Now that he had finished buying some necessities, Marcus made his way to the Adventurers Guild. The building was a good-sized 2 stories building and had a steady traffic of people coming in and out. Marcus could not help but be a bit nervous standing in front of the Adventurers Guild. Steel yourself, Marcus, this is just a normal part of this world. I already know that this is not like a game where quest can be completed in 30 minutes and enemies turned into coins and items. I just need to head in there, register and find the earliest guard job to Lorsend. After he finished psyching himself up, Marcus entered the building and searched around for a few moments, getting a feel for the interior. He noticed that there was a bar area on the left side of the building where many adventurers were sitting around and making merry. To the right had a board with a number of requests on it, and the center had multiple reception booths. Once he had finished gawking at the interior of the Adventure Guild, Marcus headed towards one of the reception booths. The one he had chosen was manned by a young woman with raven hair, and when Marcus reached the front of the line, the woman said, "Welcome to the Adventurers Guild. Are you here to place a request?" No, I am here to sign up to be an adventurer. Can I do that here?" Ads by PubFuture. The young woman's smile cracked a little when Marcus said this and asked him, "Are you sure? Being an adventurer is not easy and often leads to injury or death. If you are just looking for a job, we have open receptionist positions here. Thank you for the offer, but I would still like to sign up to be an adventurer." The young woman let out a sigh before responding to Marcus. "Very well, but there are some requirements to become an adventurer. First, the registration is 3 silver. This is non-negotiable. Second, you have to be at least level 8. Any lower and you cannot apply." "Okay, here is 3 silver and my level is 10, so I should meet the requirements." The receptionist took Marcus's money and then took out a stone from a drawer under her booth. "Here, hold this so I can confirm your status." Marcus, a bit surprised, grasped the stone and it soon lit up and projected his name and level but not his stats or skills. After confirming his level, the woman took out a piece of paper and had Marcus fill it out. Once he had finished, the receptionist took out a wooden card and touched the appraisal stone to it, causing an etching to appear on the card. She then handed the card to Marcus before explaining some of the rules of the guild to Marcus. "You are now an official adventurer. Your starting rank is copper and you will need to successfully complete 5 requests to rank up to bronze. If you do not complete a request in 2 months, your membership will be revoked. At your current rank, you can take requests at your level, 1 level above, and requests open to anyone. If you wish to form or join a party, you can do that at any guild reception. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask them." After thinking for a moment, Marcus could not think of any questions he currently had and thanked the woman for helping him. Marcus then looked at the wooden card he had been handed, noticing that it had some of his information on it. Irene, human, level 10, rank, copper. Pretty basic, but since I am still the lowest rank, and it would be too much trouble for them to give out detailed cards to everyone. Once Marcus had finished inspecting his new adventure's card, he moseyed on over to the request board looking for an escort mission to Lorsend. After searching through all of the copper requests and coming up blank, he procked to look at the bronze requests, finding no escort requests to Lorsend among them. With his last shred of hope, Marcus looked through the requests anyone could take, and towards the bottom of the list, he found what he was looking for. Guards needed for journey to Lorsend, departure 9th day of Jula, meet in front of guild at dawn, reward 1 silver. Well, I can see why it is in the request anyone can take. The reward is pretty low for such a long-lasting mission, since even copper missions like collecting herbs, which can be done in a day, pay around 12 copper. Oh well, the pay does not matter since it leaves tomorrow and all I care about is making it to Lorsend safely and swiftly. Marcus then took one of the 2 remaining tags under the request and headed towards the reception booths to apply for the mission C30 to 29 gathering. Taking the request tag to the raven-haired receptionist that had helped him earlier, Marcus tired to get her to register him for the request. "Are you really sure you want to take this request? The journey to Lorsend is long and dangerous, especially if you are guarding cargo. I really would recommend that you take some easier requests before trying this. Please, I do not want to hear about how another newbie adventurer who got in over their head and ended up dead, and with your looks it is likely that something a lot worse than simply being killed will happen to you." As the thoughtful but nosy receptionist fervently tried to get Marcus to reconsider his decision, he shook his head and said, "I really have to get to Lorsend no matter what, and you need not worry about me. I am pretty tough and can handle myself." Resigned that Marcus would not change his mind, the receptionist signed him up as a member of the escort mission and handed him a tag, and saying that when he arrives in Lorsend to give it to the guild hall there and he would receive his payment. Well, she made a bit of a scene there, but I managed to sign up for a mission to Lorsend, and hey, maybe I will get lucky, and a high-level adventure will be part of the guard and I will not have to do any work. After leaving the Adventurers Guild, Marcus went in search of something he was hoping to get a hold of but was not a necessity. Unfortunately, after searching around for a few hours, he came up empty. It was a bit of a pipe dream, but I could not find a portable tub that I could buy. The cheapest one I found was 10 silver, which is currently way out of my price range. Mourning his inability to obtain a portable tub, Marcus made his way back to the Invulnerable Tortoise Inn and requisitioned the tub for another long soak. Ah, this hits the spot. It feels great to let the hot water seep into my muscles and wipe away the fatigue. Too bad this will be my last bath for a while. From here on out it will be dumping water on myself from a bucket. Ads by PubFuture. Once he had thoroughly bathed, Marcus got out of the tub and began practicing magic until nightfall, and astonishingly during his training session Marcus made a breakthrough right as the sun was setting. Nice lightning magic level 2 and with it the tier 2 spell Lightning Javelin. Now that sounds like a cool name for a spell. I bet it is pretty powerful too. Marcus then cast the Lightning Javelin spell and a 1.5-foot lightning bolt manifested in his hand. Awesome, now this is a spell. It is kind of like the Flame Blade spell, except I imagine I can throw it at enemies from afar. It cost 80 MP to cast, so I cannot just go around slinging these like crazy, but it is another weapon for my arsenal. How do I get rid of it? Maybe it will dissipate if I wait a bit. After waiting for a few minutes, Marcus grew a bit impatient and figured that the bolt would disappear if he let go of it. However, contrary to his expectations, when he let go of the lightning javelin it shot forward and into the wall of the room, striking a hole into the wall and catching it on fire. Marcus then frantically ran over and dumped some water from his item box on the fire, and after it was out, he moved the chair in the room in front of the hole he had just made. That should cover it up. I really should not practice spells for the first time in indoor spaces. Next time I could burn down a whole building. Once he had finished critiquing himself, Marcus crawled into bed preparing to get a good night's rest, knowing he had an early day tomorrow. Waking up before the sun, Marcus prepared himself while being excited and nervous. Once he was finished with his morning preparations, he headed downstairs and returned his room key. Making his way towards the Adventurers Guild, the first beams of light were beginning to crest over the horizon. What a nice sunrise, really gets me pumped for my first mission, like the sun is cheering me on. When he arrived, he noticed 3 carts waiting outside on the street near the guild hall. There were already 4 other people who looked like adventurers standing around, having arrived even earlier than Marcus. These guys must be real professionals since they made it here before me, even though I left around an hour early. Oh well, I guess I should introduce myself. Hello, is this the caravan that is heading to Lorsend today? I am one of the adventurers that signed up to be a guard. Everyone then stared at Marcus in disbelief as this unarmored young girl had just announced herself as a guard. However, Marcus did possess the tag proving he was indeed an adventurer tasked with guarding this group of merchants. That was when the young leader of the merchants stepped up and introduced himself. Ads by PubFuture. Hi there, my name is Dthadews, and I am leading this trip for my father's company. What might your name be, miss? Wow, he is nervous. I figure this might be his first big journey without his father. Oops, I need to introduce myself before this gets more awkward. Ah yes, my name is Irene, and I am a copper rank adventurer. I will make sure to do my best to make sure you stay safe during this journey. Hearing Marcus's introduction, the other adventurers gave him slightly disdainful looks hearing his rank, while the young merchant on the other hand was looking at him like a lost puppy ready to follow him home. Oh, I get that Irene is attractive, but I am certainly not going to reciprocate this guy's puppy love. He does not even look like he is older than 16. Whatever, I am just going to have to get used to being ogled for now. Once he had introducing himself to the other merchants, Marcus headed over to talk with his fellow adventurers. Hello, I am Irene, nice to meet all of you. I guess we will be working together on this mission. One of the less polite members of the party then responded to Marcus. Yeah, we heard you earlier. I cannot believe your nerve. You are just looking for a safe trip to Lorsend, hoping that the rest of us will protect you. After his rude outburst, the leader of the party interrupted him and chimed in. That's enough, Jasper, we do not know her situation, though miss, you should reconsider going on this trip. I have seen plenty of adventurers hoping to get a free ride to certain destinations going unprepared, and they often end up hurt or dead. You do not have any weapons or armor that I can see, and you must have recently become an adventurer. I do not mean to be rude, but we do not have time to take care of you just because you are pretty. Marcus then understood why they had been treating him with ire. He looked like a completely unarmed young girl they would have to protect along with their clients. Sorry, I realize I may not look like much, but I am pretty tough and can hold my own. Marcus then cast his iron skin spell followed by flame blade, making sure to use the chances to not arouse suspicion. As you can see, I can use magic to produce armor and weapons whenever I need, so you do not have to worry about me being dead weight. Seeing Marcus's spells, the four men had shocked expressions on their faces with their mouths hanging open and their eyes bulging. The group then started a round of apologies when everyone noticed four more adventurers approaching the carts, rounding out the adventurers signed up for this mission, C-31-30 escort mission. Noticing the other adventurers arriving, Marcus and the party he had been talking to stopped their conversation to listen to what the arriving adventurers had to say. Once the newcomers had finished their introductions to the merchants, they came over towards Marcus and the other adventurers. Salutation, you must be the other adventurers that will be joining us on this journey. It is nice to meet you all. I am the leader of Shining Ice, the name's Bodhi, and these are my party members Ingrid and Mia. We are all copper adventurers. Wow, these guys are definitely new adventurers like me, in fact they look even more green. They all have cheap leather armor and iron weapons, though I think the girl Mia is probably a mage judging by her staff. I can already see their group dynamic. The two girls both like the pretty boy and decided to follow him, being adventurers. The other man that had walked in with them introduced himself right after. The name's Ari, bronze adventurer. I use a war hammer. Well, that was short and to the point. After the newcomers had introduced themselves, the party that had arrived first began their introductions as well. We are Wildwind, Iron Adventures. I am the leader Bryce, this is Jasper, Bo, and Harold. I guess it is my turn to introduce myself. Ads by PubFuture. I'm Irene, Copper Adventure, pleased to make your acquaintance. After giving his introduction, the adventurers that had just arrived gave Marcus some skeptical looks, noticing his lack of weapons or armor. Seeing that he was running into this problem again, Marcus quickly showed off his magic to placate the other adventurers. The leader of Wildwind then spoke up and said, well, now that introductions are out of the way, since we are the highest ranking adventurers here, I believe we should take charge of this mission. Are there any who disagree? Waiting a few moments to see if there would be any dissent, the leader of Wildwind began speaking again. Since we are all in agreement, I think we should figure out our formation for protecting the merchants. Shining Ice, you will be the vanguard, Irene and Ari will be the rearguard, and we will take the side guard. As I have the most experience, make sure to follow my directions and we should all make it out of this alive. Wow, Bryce is a real take charge kind of guy. The first can tell he has a good amount of experience leading. Now I wonder what everyone's levels are looking like. Let's take a quick peek. Using his creature appraisal skill, Marcus inspected all of the other adventurers as well as the merchants. As expected, I cannot see any of the levels of the Wildwind party, or Ari, but Shining Ice is about what I anticipated. All of them are level 8 and are definitely the weakest link. Of the 4 merchants, the kid is level 6, 2 of them are level 7 while the last one is level 10 like me. Judging from his attire and the sword at his waist, I suspect he was sent by the boy's father as a personal guard. Once he had finished his appraisal, Marcus headed to the rear of the carts with Ari as the other adventurers took their positions. Once everything was situated, the group began to travel towards the west gate of River Landing, starting their journey to Loresend. The group managed to exit River Landing without any trouble and got on the road heading to Loresend. The group traveled for hours on the road with the river to their left and rolling hills to their right. Well, this is boring. I thought traveling might be more fun, but so far all we have done is walk and staring at the river. Our hills got boring around an hour ago. I also tired talking to Ari, but the dude is like a brick wall. I may not be very sociable myself, but this guy is quite as a mouse. While Marcus was thinking to himself, and the party was just making it to the top of a hill, Marcus saw a breathtaking sight. Holy shit, those are some huge mountains. Some of them are so tall the tops are covered in clouds. It reminds me of the Himalaya mountain range back on Earth. While gazing at the massive mountain range before him, it took Marcus a minute to notice that the rest of his group was leaving him behind, and he hurriedly ran to catch up. Marcus slapped himself on his cheeks to get his head back in the game, since he was not here to sightsee but make sure that his clients stayed safe. Soon the rolling hills made way for a massive forest that seemed to go on endlessly, making visibility a lot worse than before. The leader of Wildwind then stopped the convoy and began addressing the whole group. Ads by PubFuture. Your chance to find someone online. Amour Factory US. Rare errors fire 1990 Fleer Michael Jordan 2 print errors on iconic basketball card. eBay US. This is where things start to get more dangerous. Whatever you do, don't go too far into the woods and stick together. There are a number of threats such as magical beasts, monsters, and bandits. Make sure to keep on your toes. After giving his warning, the group began moving again and entered the woods. Once inside, Marcus felt a sense of familiarity, realizing that these trees were the same species as the forest he had previously resided in. Now that I think about it, considering its name, this could just be another part of the Great Gome Woods. I wonder what kind of threats we're going to run into. There were some things I saw previously that I am certain we could not handle. As he was reminiscing about his time in the Great Gome Woods, one of the leader of Wildwind spotted something approaching the carts. There is an armored bear approaching from the north. Prepare to defend the merchants. Wildwind Formation D, the rest of you back us up and stay out of our way. After Wildwind pointed it out, Marcus got a good look at the incoming enemy. Ah, it is my old friend the scaled bear, or I guess its proper name is armored bear. This one looks to be 7 feet long, about the same size as the one I managed to kill. I wonder if I will be more effective now that I am 2 levels higher. Once the bear got closer, it gave an angry growl and charged towards the members of Wildwind who had finished setting up their formation. The leader and another member had a long swords and shield and were facing down the bear, while the other members were wielding a spear and a bow, attacking from behind the protection of the shields. The bear tried to swipe its claws at the members of Wildwind, but with their expert shield work they deflected each of its attacks. The other member did not sit idly by during this and pressed the attack with flying arrows and swift spear thrusts. They are pretty impressive. I can tell they have a lot of battle experience with each other. However, the bear's scales are pretty tough, and they are not doing that much damage. This is a good chance to see how my new scythe can perform. Let's get in there. Marcus then rushed towards the bear, having already cast his iron skin spell over his arms and torso to protect himself. Once in range, he took out the scythe from his item box and slashed it towards the bear's side. When it connects, it stabbed into the scales but only traveled around 3 inches into its flesh. The bear snarled at Marcus and swatted his scythe away before lunging towards him with a bite. Marcus barely managed to roll away as the bear's jaws closed like a vice mere inch from him. Are you trying to get yourself killed? Let us handle this. Back up and support us with ranged spells if you have any. Marcus did as he was told and backed up and shot off the occasional fire shot towards the bear while thinking, I thought that I would be able to do some more damage, but I barely cut into the surface of the bear. Wait, didn't the storekeeper I bought this from say something about channeling mana through the weapon? And now that I look at it, I think the weapon of the leader of Wildwind has a green aura around it. After his epiphany, Marcus started circulating magic through his body like he does when casting a spell, but instead of using the mana as fuel for a spell, he sent it into the handle of his scythe, causing his mana to engulf the weapon. It worked. I can feel that my weapon is a lot stronger. Now let us see how that bear holds up this time. Marcus once again charged towards the bear, scythe in hand, and he slashed the scythe downward with all his might, and unlike last time, the scythe sliced through the bear like butter. Blood started to gush out of the horrible wound Marcus had just inflicted, and the bear let out a death-curdling roar. Realizing it could not win, the bear turned around and tried to retreat. However, Marcus was not done testing his new enhanced scythe and slashed sideways, lobbing off one of the bear's hind feet, causing it to stumble. The bear then was quickly worn down by Marcus and the members of Wildwind until it took its last breath, signaling victory. See 32-31 spoils and offers. Having finished off the armored bear that had assailed them, the members of Wildwind looked at Marcus with respect before Bryce said, "That was impressive, Irene. You have 2 magic skills and can already infuse your weapon with mana. You said you were a copper adventurer, but what level are you? Was what I did impressive or something? All I did was send the magic I usually use to cast spells into my weapon. Anyone with the magic circulation skill should be able to do it." If everyone could have heard Marcus's thoughts, they would have started to cry, since getting the magic circulation skill and learning how to channel mana into weapons was considered a rite of passage from weak to strong for warriors and was considerably difficult for most. Marcus then, coming out of his stupor, told them what his level is. "Currently I am level 10 and imagine all of you are higher level than me, right?" Hearing Marcus's level, everyone's jaw dropped. They were all thinking, how could a level 10 have such powerful abilities? Most people at level 10 would never have so many powerful skills. In fact, the leader of Wild Wind was level 15 and he had only recently learned how to channel mana into a weapon, and he was considered a great talent. Ads by PubFuture. The leader of Wild Wind then thought, what a monster, she is only level 10, and she can channel mana into a weapon. I do not think I have even ever heard of someone being able to do that. Not to mention she is good with magic as well, she must have trained hellishly hard from a young age to be this strong. Once everyone had recovered from the shock of hearing Marcus's level, they began discussing what to do next when the young leader of the merchants spoke up. Thank you for protecting us, but we really should be going now. Looking quite disheartened about leaving the armored bear that in all honesty would be worth far more than what their current job was paying, the members of Wild Wind begrudgingly fell back into formation around the carts. Jasper, noticing that Marcus had not yet gone back to his post, called out to him. Hey, Irene, I know that the armored bear is valuable, but we do not have the time to dismantle it, and carrying it would slow us down too much. Hurry up and get back to the rearguard. Snapping out of his deep thought, Marcus decided to store the bear in his item box, figuring everyone was going to find out sooner or later anyway. When the bear's body suddenly disappeared, everyone began staring at Marcus like they could not believe he existed. After a few moments of everyone's astonished stares, Marcus said, I thought we were going to start moving again. After everyone had broken out of their daze, the caravan once again resumed its journey through the forest. They all traveled peacefully for a few more hours before the light of day was beginning to recede, and everyone began looking for a place to set up camp. It did not take long before the members of Shining Ice located a suitable clearing to set up camp in. Once everyone had set up camp and dinner had been served, Bryce asked, so who wants to take first watch tonight? I recommend that we split it into 3 groups of 3 to maximize rest and efficiency. At first no one volunteered for the first watch as everyone was tired and wanted to get some rest until Marcus spoke up and said, sure, I will take the first watch, so who is with me? After hearing that Marcus would take the first watch, the leaders of both Shining Ice and Wild Wind quickly chimed in, saying that they would also take the first watch. The second slot was filled with the 2 girls of Shining Ice and Ari, while the last was made up of the remaining members of Wild Wind. Ads by PubFuture. Me. Happy and kind-hearted. Amour Factory US. Pokemon Card EVs U Nagaba Promo 062070 SVP Pokemon Center Japanese NM. eBay US. While on the first watch, Marcus began to try to dismantle the armored bear, but finding that he had the same problem as before. He could not pierce or pry of the scales that adorned its body, and when he tried to infuse mana into his iron knife, cracks started to form on it and it shattered into pieces. Seeing this, Bryce came over and started talking to Marcus. You know, iron is one of the worst conductors of mana and breaks pretty easily, so even though bronze is not as strong normally, since it conducts mana pretty well, it becomes stronger than even steel. If you want, I can dismantle that bear for you, and all I want is the top half of the hide and to share the meat with everyone for tomorrow's dinner. Thinking about it for a bit, Marcus decided to take Bryce up on his offer and pushed the bear over to him. Bryce then began to expertly dismantle the corpse of the armored bear, and with a small amount of help from Marcus they managed to finish the work in about 2 hours. Marcus then stored half the hide and the meat into his item box. He then stared at the magic core he got out of the bear and began appraising it. It is bigger and a deeper color of green than the ones I got from the goblins or other magic beasts I beat before. I wonder how much it is worth. I guess when I get to Loresend I can see how much it sells for. After he stored the magic core away, Bryce looked at Marcus intently before asking him a serious question. Say, Irene, you are pretty strong. How about join our Wild Wind party? We are up and coming in the northern region of Borealia and I think you would make a good addition to the team. Pretending to seriously consider it for a few moments, Marcus responded by saying, while I certainly appreciate the offer, currently I plan on working solo since I have something I absolutely have to do in Loresend. Looking at Marcus with a bit of disappointment, Bryce thanked Marcus for his time and headed to another corner of camp. A few minutes later, noticing that Marcus was now alone, a new visitor approached him. Hey there, mind if I keep watch with you? Not waiting for Marcus's response, Bodhi quickly sat down next to Marcus and continued talking. It sure is tough for us copper rank adventurers, huh? Just because we are new, we get looked down on even though most people start out as copper the same as us. So, as coppers need to stay together, what do you think? Irene want to join Shining Ice? I can tell you that Ingrid and Mia won't mind. I really cannot get a read on this guy, the first to not know if he is truly being sincere or just wants me because he thinks it will make his party strong. Whatever, either way I am not joining his or anyone's party right now. Marcus then told Bodhi that he really was not interested in joining any party currently, and with that Bodhi apologized for bothering Marcus and went on his way. The first watch soon ended uneventfully, and Marcus set up his mat and blankets and quickly fell asleep. See 33-32 Trostenwald. With the sun sending off the first rays of light, Marcus, feeling rested and refreshed, got up from his mat and blankets and started getting ready for the coming day. He noticed that the 3 members of Wildwind were still vigilantly keeping watch around the camp while everyone else sleeps. Stretch, that felt nice. Looks like I am the first one up. Now that I look at it, I am the only one without a tent. Wish that I had one, but since I spent most of my money on my weapon, it cannot be helped. Marcus then noticed one of the tents moving like the occupants were thrashing around, and he moved closer to investigate. However, as he approached, Marcus heard what sounded like flesh slapping together and the soft moans of 3 people. Realizing what was going on, Marcus quickly moved away and pretended not to notice. Holy shit, they are having sex in the middle of the woods. I know they are young, but there is a time and place for everything. Man, did I have Bodhi pegged wrong. I thought he was the clueless nice guy that was as dense as a black hole, but it turns out he is actually a harem master. So, when he offered to let me join yesterday, it almost certainly was not just as a member of his party. Thanking his good sense of not joining Bodhi's party, Marcus went over to strike up a conversation with the 3 guys from Wildwind. Ads by PubFuture. Thick Charizard Pokemon card collectible gift display. eBay US. Looking for a soulmate. Amour Factory US. After around an hour, the rest of the camp had awoken and began preparing breakfast. The meal was not anything elaborate, just some simple porridge thrown together in a large pot. Once everyone had finished eating the lackluster breakfast, they packed up and got back on the road. The day's travel had gone pretty uneventfully, with the party being attacked only once by a pack of wolves that they were easily able to take care of. Setting up camp again for the night next to a small pond, the merchants and adventurers started to cook up a feast from the bear meat Marcus was carrying in his item box. One of the merchants, who was well versed in cooking, took out the largest pot the group had and stated making a stew. He of course used the bear meat as the main ingredient, followed by plethora of vegetables. He added wild mushrooms found nearby in the forest, carrots and potatoes, and many other vegetables Marcus had never seen. They even added a number of spices to the stew, enhancing its flavor to another level. Delicious. This is far and away the best thing I have had to eat in a long time. The meat is tender and juicy, the vegetables are amazing, and whatever spices he added to this has made the sauce taste impeccable. I had always heard that animals like bears are incredibly gamey, but this guy knows how to cook pretty well, because even on Earth I rarely got to enjoy a meal this good. As the entire camp was savoring the delicious stew, conversations started to flare up, and one of them between Jasper and Bo caught Marcus's attention. So far this has been a great trip, no major injuries or deaths. We have only been attacked twice by beasts. This stew is the best thing I think we have ever had to eat while out on a request, and tomorrow we can sleep in a real bed in Trostenwald. So, what are you going to do tomorrow in Trostenwald? Jasper, see that girl of yours again, though if I remember right her mother hates you with a burning passion. Hey, at least I have a girl. I do not think you have ever had a relationship in your life, Bo. Adventuring is fun and all, but during the winter having a place to go back to and call home is nice. After eavesdropping on Jasper and Bo's conversation for around a minute, Marcus decides to ask the question that had been on his mind. Excuse me, Jasper and Bo, I could not help but overhear you say something about a place called Trostenwald. Could you tell me more about it? Having their conversation interrupted by Marcus, Jasper and Bo looked at each other before shrugging, and then Jasper responded to Marcus. Ads by PubFuture. Sorry, we did not realize you did not know, but Trostenwald is a town that is in the middle of these woods on the route to Lorsend. It has the largest coal mine in the entire northern region and supplies the majority of the fuel that keeps River Landing and Lorsend warm through the winter. We should reach it before the end of tomorrow, and it is in fact my hometown. Thanks for the information, Jasper. I am new to this region, so other than River Landing and Lorsend I had not heard of anywhere else. Marcus then excused himself from the conversation and prepared for bed early, since tonight he had the last watch. The next morning the group got up rejuvenated by their excellent dinner and with renewed vigor set off once again. The day went especially peacefully as a group of merchants that was coming from Trostenwald had already cleared out any potential threats, and around late afternoon Marcus's band of merchants and adventurers saw the wooden walls of Trostenwald. When the group approached the gate, the guards skimmed over everyone's ids and gave cursory glance at the cart's cargo before collecting the entry tax of 1 copper and letting everyone into the town. Once inside, the merchants led the way to an inn that they frequent called the Lassie Inn. Arriving in front of the rustic inn, the merchants got out saying that they would arrange rooms and to wait out here by the carts. This town is a lot different from River Landing. Every building is made out of wood instead of stone and the streets are much quieter. I mean, Trostenwald is only around half the size of River Landing, but it is a bit eerie how silent it is. Soon the merchants came back and started to hand out room keys before telling the adventurers that they had the rest of the day off to do as they wished and to be ready outside the inn tomorrow morning. So now I have a few hours to kill by night. I wonder what I should do. I cannot imagine that a coal mining town is going to have the best tourist attractions. While thinking about what to do, Marcus is startled when Bryce yells out, "How about a drink? I know a great tavern on the south side of town and the first drink is on me." At this everyone starts to cheer except for Jasper, who had mysteriously disappeared already. "You know, I have not had any alcohol since coming to this world and all these guys are pretty nice, so a bit of drinking would not hurt." Thus, all of the adventurers minus Jasper followed Bryce toward the aforementioned tavern. Once they arrived, they could all see the sign that said Two-Night Tavern and the group burst in ready for a night of fun. See 34 to 33 Tragedy. Entering the tavern, the sweet smell of alcohol wafted around and into Marcus's and the other adventurers' noses, filling them with a sense of excitement. The barkeep, noticing the group's showy entrance and recognizing Bryce and the members of Wild Wind, yelled out saying, "Bryce, you bastard, good to see you again. You are not going to wreck my place again. There are still damages I am finding from last time." Hearing the barkeep's abrupt criticisms, Bryce responded saying, "Hey, that was not my fault. Those guys started it and they already paid for the damages, and have I not been a loyal customer for years?" "Yeah, you were right about that. So what can I do for all of you?" The first round for everyone is on me. We have the evening off, and we plan to enjoy it." Bryce then dropped a pouch of copper coins on the bar and the barkeep took it before filling up 8 mugs and handing them out to the group. With the first round of alcohol doled out, everyone began to drink. I think it is some type of beer. It is a bit more bitter than what I am used to, but it is pretty smooth and goes down easy. The alcohol content is also higher than the beers on Earth, but that is probably because of less refined brewing. Let's stop analyzing everything and just enjoy. The whole group began drinking and talking, with the members of Wild Wind recanting some of their past adventures and the girls Ingrid and Mia hyping up Bodhi as a peerless talent with the sword, who was the apprentice of a knight and had set off as an adventurer to hone his sword. After a few drinks, even the quiet Ari began talking mostly about his daughter and how he was a cobbler before but decided to become an adventurer to make more money for his daughter's education. While everyone else was telling stories and Marcus was listening, eventually a silence overtook the group as everyone looked to Marcus to regale them with some of his past adventures. I do not really have anything inserting to say that is not personal or could get me in trouble. Whatever, I can tell a few stories about my training in the woods with a few revisions." Marcus went about telling the stories from his time in the woods, first with the ambush from the shadow coyotes and finished up with his defeating of the goblin party that had assailed him. The other adventurers looked at him with flushed faces and began laughing, obviously not believing that one person could face down so many enemies and come out unscathed. "I guess it is not believable that I received no injuries in those battles, and sure, I was horribly injured after both, but I do not want to reveal my lesser regeneration skill right now." After having 2 beers, Marcus decided he wanted something sweeter, so he ordered a mug of mead and was not disappointed. "Man, that is sweet. I only ever had mead once before with my family on New Year's, and this is about the same. I wonder how my family is. We used to have fun like this. I think the alcohol is getting to me. I cannot stop thinking about sad things. I was pretty sure I was a happy drunk before, but with all that has happened to me, I must have become a sad drunk." The loud conversations of the others halted when they noticed that tears had started to fall down on Marcus's face. With looks of concern, they asked if he was all right, and Marcus responded saying he was just feeling a bit sick and excused himself early and went back to the inn to sleep off the alcohol. Ellipsis. Waking up the next day, Marcus had a throbbing headache from his bout of drinking yesterday. Water. After drinking around a quart of water, Marcus started to feel better and his hazy mind started to clear. Been a while since the last time I had a hangover. I should not have had that mead. Irene's body is a lot smaller than my former one, so I should have known I could not hold my liquor as well as before. Once his headache had receded a bit and since he had woken up before the sun, Marcus set out in search of a tub. After berating the person at the front desk, Marcus was able to convince them to let him use the tub in their vacant luxury room. Filling the tub up with water from his item box and painstakingly warming it with dozens of fire shots until he ran out of MP, Marcus then slipped into the tub to wash away his fatigue. This is the best. I was more of a shower guy before, but something about a long soak has really grown on me since coming to this world. Ads by PubFuture. I want to love and be loved. Amour Factory US. Rare errors fire 1990 Fleer Michael Jordan 2 print errors on iconic basketball card. eBay US. Soaking for around a half hour. When Marcus noticed the first rays of light creeping into the room, he knew he needed to get out and get ready for his guard duty to resume. With the coming dawn, the adventurers and merchants gathered together again and set out on the rest of their journey to Loresend. Ellipsis. The next 8 days went by in a flash as the group got into the daily routine of travel, eat, and sleep. There were quite a few attacks on the caravan from beasts and monsters, but with the experience of Wildwind and Marcus's prowess, the party managed to repel every threat against them. In that time, Marcus had polished up on his fighting technique to incorporate magic with his scythe arts. We should be arriving at Loresend in a few hours and then the hard part begins. While I am pretty strong for my level, against people that are many levels higher than me, I have no chance of winning a head-on fight. I will need to come up with a strategy that involves stealth or subterfuge. I will probably only get one chance, so I need to make it count. While his mind was busy thinking about how he would go about rescuing Lilia, Marcus's danger sense suddenly blared in his mind as he jumped back only for an arrow to pass millimeters from his stomach. However, Marcus was not the only one to be shot at as an arrow embedded itself into Bodhi's left wrist and the back of Ari's neck had been grazed and was now steadily bleeding. Luckily, the merchants' carts were set up to protect the drivers from arrows and the armor of the Wildwind had repelled the arrows that struck them. Another round of arrows followed, most targeting Marcus because of his lack of armor and swift movements. Without giving care, Marcus cast his iron skin spell without chanting and covered his arms and torso with a thin layer of iron. Trying his best to dodge and deflect the arrows, one managed to get past his defenses and lodge into his left thigh. Fuck, these arrows are a lot faster and better made than the ones those goblins used. Noticing that their arrow were no longer very effective without the element of surprise, a dozen bandits rushed towards the carts trying to finish off the adventurers and merchants and claim their loot. The Wildwind party reacted quickly, getting into a formation around the merchants to defend them. Ari soon followed suit, realizing that around Wildwind was the safest place. However, Shining Ice was panicking and got sectioned off from the others. The bandits then went after their prey, 3 going towards Shining Ice, 7 towards Wildwind and Ari, and the remaining 2 headed towards Marcus, who had been slowed down by an arrow in his leg. Ripping the arrow out of his leg, not worrying about the damage the barbs would cause, and taking his scythe out of his item box, startled the 2 bandits coming towards Marcus. With this moment, Marcus recast his iron skin spell to cover his wounded thigh to stop the bleeding. With his defenses reset, Marcus charged towards the 2 bandits, swing his scythe. His swing came fast and from the right, but the bandit managed to parry the attack with his spear. However, this was part of Marcus's plan as he stepped in and kicked the man's leg with his iron-coated foot. The swift and powerful kick knocked the man off his feet, causing him to sprawl onto the ground. Of course, the other bandit attacking Marcus did not sit idly by and was swinging his sword at Marcus's exposed back. With swift movements enhanced by his scythe skill, Marcus brought the handle up to defend, blocking the sword. Had the handle been made of ordinary wood, it certainly would have been cut clean through, but the wood from a nightmare tree ant was far sturdier. With the sword blocked and the bandit right in front of him, Marcus finished the chant he had started earlier, and a fire shot appeared and struck the bandit square in the chest. The sudden fire shot burned the bandit badly, as all he could do was writhe around on the ground in pain. Having incapacitated the 2 bandits attacking him, Marcus noticed that Wildwind was in trouble, outnumbered by the bandits. Seeing Bryce locked in combat with the leader of the bandits, Marcus quickly cast his lightning javelin spell before hurling it at Bryce's opponent. The bandit leader, seeing the projectile coming towards him, raised his sword to defend. However, when the lightning javelin struck the sword, the electricity flowed through the blade and into the man's arm, stunning him for a moment. Bryce, not letting the opportunity go to waste, decapitated the man with one swing from his sword. Seeing the severed head flying through the air and the fountain of blood gushing out of the bandit's neck, Marcus held his hand to his mouth and used every ounce of willpower he had not to hurl. Deciding to look away, figuring now that Bryce was freed up, Wild Wind could win their fight, Marcus looked towards Shing Ice only to see a more horrific scene. Mia had been cut clean in half, while Bodhi was laying on the ground in a pool of blood, and the three bandits were currently toying with Ingrid. Seeing this, sorrow started to overtake Marcus's mind before it was filled with rage, and he charged the three bandits. He let loose another lightning javelin, causing one bandit to crumble to the ground spasming, before he attacked the other two, infusing mana into his scythe. With the power of his scythe, Marcus cleaved through the cheap weapons the bandits had and cut the muscles in their legs so they could no longer move. Ingrid, seeing the incapacitated bandits that had been torturing her and had killed her friends, took her spear and mercilessly jabbed it into their heads. Averting his eyes, Marcus glanced over towards Wild Wind again and saw that they were winning and about to finish off the last couple of bandits. That was when Marcus saw the bandit he thought he had incapacitated earlier, had gotten behind them and impaled his spear straight through Ari's stomach. See 35-34. A harsh lesson. With a spear jutting out of his gut, Ari began coughing up blood, and his body soon went limp. The bandit then pulled his spear out and tried to run away, noticing that most of his allies were dead and the remaining two were soon to follow. However, the highest level merchant caught the bandit off guard and swung his sword, slashing the bandit's throat, preventing his escape. When life left the bandit, Marcus heard a familiar ding. You have leveled up to level 11. At the sound of leveling up, Marcus broke out of his daze and opened his status and began looking for a particular skill. Finding the skill, Marcus went to purchase it immediately, spending 5 of the 6 skill points he had just obtained. With his new skill, Marcus rushed over to Ari and began casting the Tier 1 healing spell Minor Heal. Marcus cast the spell over and over again until he had run out of MP, but the Tier 1 healing spell was powerful enough to save Ari. No, heal, damn it, you cannot die here. Do you not have a daughter waiting on you to return? However, try as he might, Marcus was unable to do anything as life faded from Ari's eyes. Sitting on the ground next to Ari's dead body, Marcus was soon pulled back onto his feet by Bryce, who then slapped him in the face before saying, "Get yourself together, we need to move, there could be more of them around, and if we stay here, we will be sitting ducks." Snapping out of his crippling sorrow, the group began moving as fast as possible, to create some distance from where they were attacked. Once the group had moved for as long as possible and had made it to the edge of the woods where they could see the outline of Lorsend, the party stopped to rest and process what had just happened. Ingrid immediately collapsed and started crying and wheezing, from the loss of her friends, while Marcus began slipping into a depression. They are dead, Bodhi, Mia, and Ari, they all died. Just when I was starting to have fun in this world, it came and reminded me how cruel it is. If I had just been stronger, everyone would still be alive. I let those bandits live and now Ari is dead because of me. Wallowing in his grief, Marcus could only blame himself for the death of his temporary comrades. The group stayed there for a good hour, no one saying anything before Bryce spoke up. I understand that what we just experienced was tragic, but we need to keep moving if we want to make it to Lorsend before they close the gates for the night. This is part of the job and we all knew the risks involved when we decided to take this job. At Bryce's harsh words, Ingrid snapped, no longer able to contain her emotions. Shut up, we knew the risks, is that how you consider it? Bodhi and Mia are dead, and it's your faults. Why didn't you come to help us? You just stood there around the carts even when you saw us being sectioned off. And you, Irene, with your strength you could have quickly killed those 2 bandits and helped us. You have healing magic, but you did not even stop to try and help Bodhi. Were you too guilt-ridden that your weakness got Ari killed? After Ingrid had finished shouting at the rest of the party, she stormed off in the direction of Lorsend, tears streaming down her face. What had been a bad experience had been turned even worse as everyone realized the mistakes that they made, and started thinking about what they could have done better. This did not last too long before Bryce, the natural leader that he is, once again tried to rally everyone. Ads by PubFuture. If we keep looking back at the past trying to fix mistakes that have already happened, we will not be able to look towards the future. Yes, we have experienced a tragedy, we lost some good men and women, but do not blame yourselves, it was the bandits that killed them, not you. With the slight boost in morale, the party gathered themselves and managed to continue the march out of the woods into Lorsend. Once they exited the woods, the full scope of Lorsend came into view, and while the view would normally be stunning, the somber group could not feel any joy. Steady yourself, Marcus, it is sad what happened, but I still have a job to do. I know that if I had killed that bandit, Ari would still be alive, but I cannot come to grips with killing someone right now. I feel if I started killing people I would become a true monster, and I do not know what would happen to me. While Marcus struggled with his morality about killing people, the group soon made it to the line of people waiting to get into Lorsend. Looking up for the first time and really looking at it, Marcus realized just how massive Lorsend is. If it were not for what just happened, this would be quite the sight. The walls are 30 feet tall and the city looks to be the size of some on Earth. While River Landing looked was pretty big, I would not be surprised if this place was 10 times its size. The sight and smell of the ocean is also calming, there is nothing to do but move forward. Soon the party had made it to the front of the line where their carts went through a routine search and everyone paid the steep entry tax of 4 copper. Once inside, the hustle and bustle of the city perked Marcus up a bit, seeing all the wondrous sights. There are people flying on some type of large birds all over the place, and I even saw someone on a griffin. This is what you would expect of a fantasy city, people all over flying on magical beasts, food vendors hawking their wares, and the ever-moving wagons and carts. As Marcus gawked around at the amazing sights, the group was making a beeline towards the Adventurers Guild in Lorsend. Once in view, Marcus was amazed at the massive building, as it was easily 5 times the size of the one in River Landing. Going inside, one of the merchants led the remaining adventurers to one of the booths to collect their reward. Once they made it to the front of the line, they were served by a rabbit-eared man who doled out the reward of 1 silver to the members of Wildwind and Marcus. Their rewards in hand, the adventurers and merchants went their separate ways. As Marcus was leaving, he was suddenly pulled aside by Bryce, who decided to give him some words of wisdom. Irene, I realize that you cannot kill people, and while that is an admirable quality, it does not suit an adventure. I know this may not be my place, but I think you should give up adventuring. This job is not all sunshine and roses, and if you cannot kill people, there will come another day like today where it will cost you, but if you can overcome it, I know you can be a great adventurer. Also, if you need our help, we will be in town for a while exploring the Ocean Bluff Temple. With those words of advice, Bryce and the other members of Wildwind exited the guild hall, leaving Marcus to himself. C36-35. The search begins. Having finally made it to Lorsend, Marcus could now start looking for Lilia. He nearly left the Adventurers Guild preparing to search the city for the Fair Sunset Tavern when he realized he could just ask for directions. I really am an idiot sometimes. This city is massive, and I am currently in one of the largest information hubs in the city. They probably know at least the general location of taverns and inns. Heading back inside, Marcus got into one of the long lines of people waiting to be served. Damn, there are a lot of adventures here, far more than River Landing. Maybe it has something to do with that Ocean Bluff Temple Bryce mentioned. After waiting for around 30 minutes to be served, Marcus finally made it to the front of the line where a young boy no older than 15 was manning the booth and asked Marcus, "Hello miss, how can I help you today?" Marcus visibly winced when he heard the young man's voice crack multiple times. I remember those days. Good luck kid, it gets better eventually. Ads by PubFuture. Giving his silent support for the young man, Marcus then told him that he was looking for the Fair Sunset Tavern. The poor kid looked like a deer caught in headlights before he asked Marcus to wait just a second. After around a minute, he came back with a book and began rifling through the pages. When he found what he was looking for, he said, "The Fair Sunset Tavern is located in the southwest of Lorsend and should be just a bit north of the Church of Egine the Ocean Spirit. The church is a big blue building and should be hard to miss." Thanking the young man for his assistance, Marcus made his way out of the Adventurers Guild and started heading towards the southwest part of the city. After having walked for over 4 hours, Marcus finally stopped, realizing his predicament. "I'm lost, this place is too damn big, and I have headed southwest until I hit the city wall. The sun has already begun to set, and I have no idea where I am. I figured this church would stand out, but this city is like a labyrinth, and I have yet to come across a big blue building. Smacking his head against a wall, Marcus wished he had one of those birds he saw people flying around on so he could have an aerial perspective when he remembered he was a ghost and could float above the buildings to search around. I cannot believe I forgot I can float. Even if I am tethered to Irene's body, I still have over 40 feet I can travel. Exiting Irene's body, Marcus floated up 43 feet to try and get a better view of the city. However, some of the building were still slightly too tall and continued to obstruct his view. That was when Marcus remembered his recent level up and opened his status. I really need to calm down. Frantically trying to find Lilia is not going to help me, especially if I keep forgetting to use my abilities to their fullest. Looking at his stat points, Marcus discovered something. Why do I have 20 stat points, and now that I think about it, I had 6 skill points when I leveled up to 11. Wait, so the system is exponential, not additive. Great, this means the difference between levels becomes more apparent the higher you get. So, I probably have no chance against anyone more than just a few levels ahead of me. Marcus then assigned his stat points, now giving 2 to strength and vitality, 4 to agility, and 6 to both intelligence and spirit. With his new boosted spirit stat, Marcus managed to make it high enough to look over most of the buildings in Loresend and see pretty much the whole city. Now where is that church? Whoa, it is glowing. How did I miss it? The building is around 3 stories tall and as long as a football field. I somehow walked right past it without noticing. Ads by PubFuture. After finding his bearings, Marcus suddenly felt himself moving, and when he looked down, he saw 2 men dragging away Irene's body. Shit, this is not good. Marcus then rushed back into Irene's body, gaining control of it, and startling the guards. What the hell, the corpse just came back to life. When Marcus took back control of Irene's body, the 2 men became alarmed and dropped him onto the ground. When Marcus tried to get up, he was greeted by the pointy end of 2 daggers aimed at his face. Could I ask what you 2 are doing? I decide to take a quick rest against a wall and suddenly I am being dragged away by you 2. While he was talking to them, Marcus had started to appraise them and found that one was level 8 while the other was level 10. The 2 men looked at each other before they both nodded and ran away. Well, that was certainly weird. I wonder why they are out looking for corpses. Whatever, it has nothing to do with me. Time to go find that tavern. Marcus then made his way towards the direction of the church, but once again seemed to get lost until he appeared on the other end of a street where the church was visible. With the church finally in view, Marcus started making his way north looking for the Fair Sunset Tavern. Unfortunately, the sun had already set, and Marcus was forced to slow down to thoroughly check the names on the taverns he passed. By the time he finally located the Fair Sunset Tavern, it was already well into the night. Luckily for Marcus, for a tavern in a major city, the night was the time for their best business. Walking inside, Marcus noticed the dozens of men and women sitting around enjoying food and drink. Finding an empty table, Marcus sat down and waited to be served, while looking around for any of the slavers that had kidnapped Lilia. Irene got a good look at 7 of them, and her death is the most vivid memory she left me, so I am sure if I see one of them, I will recognize them immediately. Hopefully, I do not have to stake this place out for too long, because my only other lead is to search through the whole warehouse district. After a few minutes, the busy staff made their way to Marcus's table, where he ordered some ale and fired fish. When his order arrived, Marcus realized he had not had anything to eat since breakfast and dug in devouring the food. That was satisfying, nothing like some fried food and alcohol to help heal the soul. Now let's take another look around and see if there are any familiar faces. Marcus scanned the room thoroughly, looking at everyone's face before he finally recognized one. Staring at the man and his friends, Marcus recognized another one of them and was now certain he had found his quarry. The man, noticing Marcus staring at him, came over and said, "Hey there, miss, I could not help noticing you staring at me. Did you want to head upstairs and get a better look?" See 37 to 36 interrogation. Marcus, staring blankly at the man who was currently propositioning him for nightly activities, thought, "Is this man an idiot? Has that line actually worked for him before? Oh, whatever, this is a chance for me to get one of the slavers alone." Looking up at the man, Marcus put on his best smile before responding, "Certainly, I do not mind, so should we head upstairs?" The man was shocked for a moment before a lecherous smile appeared on his face and he started moving towards the stairs. Normally, one would not have been able to head to the rooms upstairs, but since the band of slavers were loyal customers, they had access to certain privileges. Before entering inside one of the bedrooms, Marcus decided to check out the man's level. Level 12, so he is one higher than me, but with the element of surprise I should still be able to incapacitate him. Wait, level 12, I should not be able to see his level since it is higher than mine. Status. Name: Marcus Ferris. Age: 28. Race: Unbound Ghost Human Irene Soul Tethered. Level: 11. HP: 525 120ths minus 343 140ths. MP: 474 170ths. STR: 10 plus 25. AGL: 38. VIT: 10 plus 24. Ads by PubFuture. Int: 47. SPR: 49 plus 3. Stat points: 0. Skill points: 1. Unique skills: Personal status. Skills: Small item box, Lesser regeneration LVL1, Digging LVL1, Fighting LVL2, Magic circulation LVL2, Iron magic LVL2, Disassembly LVL2, Stealth LVL2, Lightning magic LVL2, Creature appraisal LVL2, Fire magic LVL1, Danger sense LVL2, Dark vision LVL1, Scythemanship, Superior LVL2, Healing magic LVL1. Blessing of Iron. Race abilities: Invisible, Ethereal, Chill Zone, Float, Possession, Undying. Possessed race abilities: Spectre powers, Ghost sounds. My creature appraisal is a level higher now. I must have just advanced it when I appraised those guys earlier. I wonder how effective it will be now. Only one way to find out. I just have to keep using it. While he was checking his status and thinking about his leveled up appraisal skill, the slaver had begun lighting candles in one of the upstairs rooms. Marcus then walked into the room confident in his plan to siphon information from this slaver. Closing the door behind him, the man then said, "Are you ready to get started? Though I have to warn you, I do like it a bit rough." "That's fine, I promise not to hurt you too bad." With a bewildered look on his face, the slaver suddenly felt a tug on his feet as he was knocked over onto his back. When he looked at his feet, he noticed threads glimmering in the candle light before Marcus slammed onto the man's torso. Reeling from the shock, the man had no time to defend when Marcus put his index fingers on both of his temples before unleashing a spark spell. Short-circuiting the slaver's brain, the man passed out immediately from the sudden influx of electricity. "Well, that should do it. He probably will not wake up for a little while, so let us get to work." Marcus then took some rope out of his item box and began tying the man up. With his scant amount of knowledge with knots, it took Marcus many minutes before he had a horrible tangle of rope that was binding the man. Definitely not my best work, but as long as he is restrained, that is all that matters. Now all I have to do is wait for him to wake up and persuade him to tell me where Lilia is. Hopefully, they still have her, because tracking her down across another continent would not be fun. Waiting for the man to wake up for nearly half an hour, Marcus finally decided to cast Minor Heal on the guy until he woke up. Ads by PubFuture. "What the hell, do you think you are going to get away with this, bitch? I am part of a very powerful group and I promise you will wish you were dead when I am through with you." As the man struggled and kept throwing out threats he could not back up, Marcus started to get down to business. "Listen, I do not have time for you rants. Let us get through this the easy way, where you answer my questions and this whole process is nice and painless. First, you recently attacked a village up north where you killed and kidnapped all of the people. I am looking for the survivors. Where are they? Second, I want to know the schedule of your bosses Onder, Osman, and Tyrell, and third, how many of you are currently in your group?" The man looked at Marcus with a face full of surprise, as Marcus knew the names of his leaders and of their recent attack on the isolated logging community. Shaking his head and steeling himself, the man looked at Marcus with a mocking expression before saying, "I am not going to tell you anything, do your worst." At that, Marcus responded saying, "Okay, but you asked for it." He then went over and grabbed one of the pillows on the bed and tore it open, causing a huge plume of feathers to cover the room. Picking up the part of the torn pillowcase, Marcus headed over towards the man, placing the cloth over his face ready to begin his torture. Soon the sound of wheezing and crying resounded in the well-sound-proofed room as Marcus began a round of waterboarding on the unfortunate man. "Huff huff huff, please stop, I can't breathe." After waterboarding the man for nearly an hour, making the man cry profusely and nearly pass out from not being able to breathe, he finally caved, willing to tell Marcus what he wanted. "Fine, you win, please just stop, it hurts. I will tell you what you want to know." "Good, now where are the people you recently kidnapped?" "The ones that are left are being stored in our warehouse right now. It is located in the warehouse district near the river on the northwestern side, a big building made of dark wood, and it has a distinct red roof. There are always 2 guards posted out front." "You just mentioned the ones that are left. Does that mean you have already sold some of them?" Fear began to well in the man's eyes when he heard this, expecting that Marcus might start to waterboarding him again if he gave an undesirable answers. However, when Marcus started reaching for the pillowcase, the man started spilling his guts once more. "Yes, I am sorry, some of them have already been sold, mostly just a few of the older women, the younger ones take more time to train." A bit of relief filled Marcus's face when he heard this, hoping that Lilia was still within his grasp. He then asked the man if they still had Lilia, giving her description, and the man began nodding his head, signaling that she was still in their custody. "Okay, they still have Lilia, that is good. It sucks for the other people that were already sold, but I am no saint, and even if I can only rescue Lilia, that is what I will have to do. Now then, when are your bosses away and how many members are in your group right now?" The tied-up slaver then went into great detail about the numbers and schedules of his group, which currently numbered 17. Unfortunately, they erred on the side of caution, and their leader or one of his lieutenants are always present, along with at least the 2 guards outside and 3 plus 1 of the leaders inside. Marcus also found that the best time for him to attempt a rescue would be in 2 days, when the weakest Lieutenant Osman and only the minimum number of guards would be there. "Okay, I have the information I want from this guy, so now I need to make sure he is not found for the next 2 days. Realizing that he had answered all of the questions Marcus wanted to know and figuring that there would be no more waterboarding, the man regained a bit of his bravado and said, "Even with that information it will not matter. I promise you will fail and get captured, and when you do, I am going to turn you and that girl into my own personal dogs." Rolling his eyes at the man's impossible threat, Marcus once again placed his index fingers on his temples before shocking him back into dreamland. See 38-37 stakeout. With the slaver he had extracted information from once again unconscious Marcus now needed to find a place to hide him for a while, so he did not spoil his plan. "Okay, now where would you keep a guy hidden for a couple of days without anyone noticing?" Searching around the upper floor of the tavern, Marcus eventually came across a storeroom that had dust on the floor and crates, seeming to not have been used for some time. Going back to the room where he had left the man unconscious, Marcus grabbed him and dragged him towards the storeroom. Once there, he shoved him inside into a cramped corner where he would have a hard time moving around so as not to allow him to make any noise. "Phew, time to get out of here and locate that warehouse." Heading back down the stairs, Marcus made sure to stop before entering onto the main floor and check to see if the dude's buddies were still around. Ads by PubFuture. "Ah, they are still there. I cannot let them see me leaving or they could grow suspicious. Time for a little distraction." Exiting Irene's body, Marcus flew over towards the guys that had been drinking with the man he had just interrogated and checked their levels. Finding that of the 3 men the lowest leveled one was 10, he went ahead and possessed that man's body, causing a bit of a spectacle as the man began convulsing a bit as his and Marcus's soul fought for dominance until Marcus came out on top. Now in control of the man's body, Marcus stood up, grabbed the edges of the table and flipped it over as he yelled, "This food sucks." As everyone stared in shock at the sudden outburst Marcus had caused, he next ran up to the nearest guy and punched him in the face, before running towards the next and leaping towards him. While in midair, Marcus exited the man's body, letting his momentum continue to carry him. Floating back to Irene's body, Marcus once again entered her body, taking control of it. Looking out at the chaos he had just caused, Marcus noticed that it had turned into a full-on bar fight. "Well, I think that should serve as enough of a distraction for me to exit without being noticed." Causally leaving the bar with the help of his stealth skill, Marcus managed to navigate the growing fight without being noticed and escaped back onto the street. With his successful acquisition of information, Marcus began looking for an inn to rest in for the remainder of the night. Finding one not too far away called the Owl's Hoot, Marcus went inside and purchased a room for 1 night for 40 copper. Damn, that was expensive. I guess that is a big city for you, everything cost more. I am starting to run low on funds, but hopefully in just 2 more days I will have saved Lilia and then I will have more time to make money. Entering into his room that only had a cheap bed and wooden chair in it, Marcus collapsed down onto the bed as his physical and mental fatigue had overcome him. Ellipsis. Ads by PubFuture. Waking up well past the rise of the sun, Marcus reluctantly dragged himself out of bed and started preparing for another long day. Yesterday was exhausting, way too much happened, but I have to keep moving forward, my goal is now within my sight. Today I have to find that warehouse and keep watch over it for the next couple of days, and then when the time is right sneak in and rescue who I can. With his plan ready to be set in motion, Marcus headed out of the Owl's Hoot and back onto the bustling streets of Lorsend. Heading towards the northwest part of the warehouse district, Marcus stopped when he hit the river. He then exited Irene's body and floated up into the air. Scanning his surroundings, he soon caught a glimpse of a warehouse with a prominent red roof. Moving in that direction with a closer look, he saw the 2 guards posted outside the large bay doors serving as the only entrance. From the description I got, this seems to be the place where they are holding Lilia. Now I just need to wait for 2 days and observe them. Using his stealth skill, Marcus moved around until he found a nearby warehouse he could get on the roof of. As he had climbed up, he exited Irene's body and floated into the warehouse of the slavers to look around. Once inside, he could see 8 other slavers sitting at a table playing some type of game. Along the walls, Marcus saw dozens of cages which not only held people but also magical beasts. I guess they do not just deal in people but also magical beasts. Now let me see if I cannot find where Lilia is. Unfortunately, with Marcus's short leash, he could only explore a small amount of the warehouse before hitting his maximum range. He did, however, locate one of the other members of the community, giving him definitive proof that these were the guys he was looking for. Damn, sometimes this tether is annoying. I mean, at this point I could just sever it, but the description says that my own soul will suffer backlash and permanent damage, so I do not want to resort to that right now. Exiting the building and going back into Irene's body, Marcus kept watch on the warehouse for many hours before a large, covered carriage rolled up and entered the premises. Curious of what was going on, Marcus once again entered the warehouse and watched the men begin to load the carriage with people. Noticing now that the people were all wearing some type of collar, Marcus finally had confirmation on how slaves were controlled in this world. A few moments later, when Marcus's eyes fell onto the leader of the slavers, Onder, the fragment of Irene's soul began burning with an immense rage and desire to kill. In that moment, as if he could sense the animosity, Onder turned and looked in Marcus's direction before he disappeared in a blur and slashed the place where Marcus was. Luckily, Marcus was not only invisible but ethereal, and the physical sword attack passed right through him. Marcus then swiftly left the building, having made sure that Lilia was not on that carriage. Holy shit, did he feel the killing intent that Irene's soul fragment was letting off? If I was not intangible, he would have cut me right in 2. I really need to be careful of higher level people. If I think myself invincible one day, I am going to run into someone that can actually hurt me. Marcus continued to watch the building for the rest of the day, being extra careful to not reveal his presence to Onder again. Once night set in, Marcus scurried towards the middle of the roof he was perched on and took out his sleeping mat and blankets, since this would be the last time he could rest until he broke into the warehouse. Waking up early the next day, Marcus continued to observe the warehouse, and whenever a carriage would come and go, Marcus would check to make sure Lilia was not on it. Luckily, Marcus never saw Lilia being loaded onto one of the carriages and was almost certain she was somewhere in the warehouse. As the day came to an end, only the minimum amount of guards led by the weakest Lieutenant Osman were left in the warehouse, and it was time for Marcus to enact his rescue. C-39-38 busting in. Having waited for the optimal time, Marcus began his plan to break in. He had thought of many methods to try and rescue Lilia, but ultimately decided for a more forward approach. Having scanned everyone's level, he was able to determine that the 2 guards outside were both level 10 while 2 of the people inside were level 11 and 1 was 13. He had tried to check Osman's but found that he could still not see his level. Marcus then climbed down the warehouse and, using the cover of night and his stealth skill, approached the front of the warehouse before slipping into a nearby alley. Once he was hidden in the alley, he slumped up against the warehouse wall before unpossessing Irene's body. Floating over towards the guards at the entrance, Marcus waited for one of them to leave to use the restroom before taking over the other one's body. After overshadowing the guard's soul, Marcus bid his time until the other guard came back, and he went over to him and clasped his hands around the man's head and casted his sparks spell, knocking him unconscious. If it is not broke, don't fix it. As long as these guys keep letting me shock them right on the head, who am I to stop? Dragging the man into the alley where he had left Irene's body, Marcus then climbed to the roof of another warehouse and jumped off, leaving the man's body before he impacted the ground. Afterwards, Marcus repossessed Irene's body and went over to the man, who now had 2 broken legs and a concussion. The man was letting off groans of pain before Marcus knocked him fully unconscious. He then tied up the 2 men and had successfully cleared the front guards. Ads by PubFuture. There we go, now I have completed the easy part. The hard part will be taking down Osman, but I think I can do it. I was hoping to be able to infiltrate with stealth, but I have to get the keys to the cages and only Osman has them. With the front guards taken care of, Marcus floated through the back wall of the warehouse and patiently waited. After observing the warehouse for the last couple of days, Marcus had made note of the times when one of the slavers would go around giving food to the occupants of the cages. When his prey had separated from the rest of the group and was handing out food to the creatures on the back walls, Marcus took this time to strike, possessing the unlucky man. Unfortunately for Marcus, it was the level 13 who had lost the last game and been forced to make the rounds. With the man's higher level, he fought Marcus tooth and nail for a good 3 minutes before Marcus barely managed to come out on top. That was probably the hardest battle over a body I have ever had. If my spirit stat was not abnormally high for my level, I probably would have had no chance of possessing him. I need to act quick, though I cannot keep control for long. Pretending to be the man, Marcus then started yelling and screaming that one of the beasts had got a hold of his arm and that he needed help. With his passable acting, he managed to lure over another one of the slavers, who he then tied up with his iron threads before slamming him into one of the cages multiple times until the man fell unconscious. With the loud ruckus that Marcus had just created, both Osman and the other slaver began approaching Marcus. When the 2 of them came within his dark vision, Marcus unleashed a lightning javelin towards the grunt, hitting him square in the stomach, causing his body to shack all over and collapse, his muscles twitching, unable to move. Osman, with an astonished expression, said, "So you are a traitor, Keith? Well then, die." Osman, unfurling a whip with a blade at the tip, lashed out towards the head of the man Marcus was possessing. Already at his limit of controlling the man's body, Marcus made a quick escape as the whip separated the man's head from his torso. Floating back onto the other side of the wall, Marcus re-entered Irene's body and took out his scythe. With his scythe in hand, Marcus let his mana flow into it before slashing towards the wall of the warehouse. As the scythe's blade connected with the wood, it sliced through until there was a gap large enough for Marcus to fit through. Surprised to see him burst through the wall, Osman turned around, going from angry to furious at the sight of another attacker. "And who the hell are you? Are you partners with that scum Keith? Well, you are too late and he is already dead." Ads by PubFuture. Osman's fury then receded a bit as he looked over Marcus thoroughly before saying, "Well, now aren't you a beauty? This is your lucky day, since I am not going to kill you, and being only a level 11, you really do not have a chance against me. Oh, and do not worry, I won't scar your pretty face." Crap, he must have creature appraisal as well, but from my intel he should only be around level 15. With my busted skills, if I play this right, I should be able to eke out a victory. After the 2 of them had finished sizing each other up, Osman made the first move, lashing his mana-infused whip towards Marcus's right leg. With the help of his danger sense and scythe skill, Marcus managed to redirect the whip with the scythe's handle so it only grazed his leg. Fuck, his whip is fast. If I had not blocked that, he would have severed the muscles in my leg, and I would be unable to move properly. I need to be careful, this is going to be the fight of my life. Continuing for a few more exchanges, Marcus was barely able to block and taking minor injuries with each flick of the whip, keeping him from approaching Osman. In order to close the distance, Marcus unleashed the lightning javelin spell he had finished chanting, hoping to distract Osman. The javelin flew at an incredible speed towards Osman, but being multiple levels higher than Marcus, he was able to dodge the attack with only a bit of effort. However, this did allow Marcus to close the distance where the whip would be harder to use. Unfortunately, Osman had used the whip for many years and had already fought countless battles and had developed countermeasures for close-range fighting. With Marcus getting closer, Osman cracked his whip into the ground, causing it to rebound up in a V shape towards Marcus. The unexpected attack caught Marcus completely off guard as he hastily moved his scythe to block the whip. While he did prevent the whip from giving him a debilitating wound, it still sliced into his left arm, penetrating Marcus's iron skin like it was not even there. Osman then delivered a powerful kick to Marcus's stomach, sending him reeling across the floor. Damn it, this guy is stronger than I thought. He moves pretty fast and has way more combat experience than me, not to mention his overall stats are higher than mine. I need to hope this works or I am certain to lose. As Osman approached Marcus's battered body that was bleeding from multiple shallow wounds in what seemed to be a very desperate attempt, Marcus threw his scythe towards Osman. Astonished by Marcus's level of stupidity for throwing away his weapon, Osman simply sidestepped to the left, letting the scythe harmlessly pass by. However, Marcus had intentionally chanted his lighting javelin spell earlier, so when he unleashed his next one with no chant at all, he caught Osman completely by surprise. Using every ounce of reflex and skill he had, Osman twisted his body to the right, barely dodging the lightning javelin. With Osman off balance and surprised by his chant-less magic, Marcus enacted the final phase of his attack, pulling with all his might. The iron threads attached to his side reeled it back towards him before its blade lodged directly into Osman's right shoulder. Osman, distressed to see the sharp blade of the scythe protruding from his shoulder, immediately moved to pull it out. Not letting this opening go unpunished, Marcus leapt towards Osman, tackling him into the ground. Osman tried to strike Marcus with his whip, but with his right shoulder skewered by a scythe, his arm could not get the whip to move with any precision or force. On top of Osman, Marcus began to relentlessly thrash him with iron-coated fisted, occasionally also throwing in a spark spell to stun him. After taking Marcus's brutal beating for over a minute and being unable to offer any meaningful form of resistance, Osman eventually succumbed to Marcus's onslaught, falling unconscious. Breathing heavily and completely exhausted, Marcus rolled off Osman's bloody body, taking a quick rest. I won. I had to abuse every trick at my disposal, but I won. Had he been trying to kill me, I am pretty sure I would have had no chance, but he underestimated me. Ow, I do not have time to lay around right now. I have to find and rescue Lilia before any of the other slavers arrive. Shakily getting to his feet, Marcus searched Osman and found the keys to the cages. He then started looking around for Lilia, as everyone he passed begged and pleaded for him to let them out. Ignoring the other people but taking note of the other ones from Irene's community, Marcus eventually found Lilia when he heard a loud bang. Turning around, he saw a deep depression in the bay doors before another loud bang, and the doors splintered and broke open, revealing the man that Marcus least wanted to see, the slave group's leader Onder, C40-39 breaking point. Marcus, with a look of terror on his face, stared at the large middle-aged man with short purple hair who had just busted into the warehouse. Onder, what the hell is he doing here? I watched him leave earlier and he was not supposed to be back until tomorrow. Fuck, what am I going to do? I barely beat Osman, how am I going to deal with him? As Marcus's brain strained itself to find a way out of his predicament, Onder scanned the entire warehouse, seeing the damage Marcus had caused before fixing his gaze on Marcus. He stared at him like a judge at a dog show, examining what made Marcus tick, and once he was satisfied, he began speaking. Well, Irene, I have to admit that I am impressed with how you thrashed my subordinates. I commend you for coming out on top, especially at only level 11. If you had not let your bloodlust leak the other day, I never would have known you were targeting this warehouse. So, I have a proposition for you. This is going to end one of two ways. One, you submit to me and join my group since you have really impressed me, and I can let bygones be bygones if you yield. The other option is that I beat you into submission and sell you away to the sickest pig I can find to recoup my losses. The option is up to you. During this time, Marcus's brain had never stopped moving at full speed, looking for any way to fight his current situation, but he could come up with nothing that would put him out on top. For just a moment he considered Ander's offer before the fragment of Irene's soul burned. With so much rage, Marcus nearly lunged towards Ander. Getting his emotions under control, Marcus steeled himself before spitting on the ground in disgust and answering Ander. I would rather die 1,000 deaths than bow down and join you. You are a monster that goes around killing and kidnapping people, so I will have to choose option 3, resist. Marcus then rushed towards Ander, charging his side with mana and swinging with everything he had. The first slash comes fast towards Ander, right side, but in an instant, Ander drew his sword and deflected Marcus's strike. Feeling the backlash from Ander's sword, Marcus's hands felt numb from the force. Marcus furiously swung at Under, who effortlessly blocked all of his attacks until he suddenly moved with frightening speed and tripped Marcus. Falling over, Marcus tucked and rolled, getting back onto his feet in one clean motion. "Are you sure you do not want to reconsider? You would have no chance of beating me even if you were at your peak condition. I am twice your level and no amount of tactics of fighting spirit can help you overcome that difference." Marcus, having already given into Irene's fury, began his assault again on Under, who then said, "Oh, well, I have had my fun, time to end this." Ads by PubFuture. In the next moment, as Marcus was slashing his scythe downwards, Under caught his arm and twisted it, forcing Marcus to drop his scythe. Then in one fluid motion he picked Marcus up by the arm and slammed him into the ground with his full force. The ground caved under the pressure, leaving an imprint where Marcus had impacted the ground. Marcus had blood flowing out of many wounds and could feel several broken bones, and the arm in Anders' grasp was shattered. Marcus was broken and barely able to move as Under lifted him up by his shattered arm and said, "See, what did I tell you? You never had a chance. You could not even put a scratch on me." While Under was gloating about his victory with the final dregs of his strength as adrenaline pumped through his veins, Marcus cast his iron threads spell and shaped it in the form of a corkscrew at the tip of his fingers before manipulating the threads to spin like a drill. Marcus then stabbed the rotating claws into Anders' arm that was holding him aloft, sinking in deeply. On reflex, Under brought his sword down on Marcus's arm before kicking him away. Marcus then watched as his body seemed to fly backwards in slow motion and he could see his severed arm falling in front of him. However, this sense of slow motion did not last long as Marcus crashed into the ground, skidding almost 24 feet before coming to a stop. Vomiting blood, Marcus could feel his ruptured organs and the life of Irene's body slipping away. Looking up, Marcus saw Under approaching slowly and saying, "Look what you made me do. With only one arm your value is going to go down by at least 20%, this could have been so much easier. Now enjoy your last few moments of being free, because when you next wake up you will be attending your new master for the rest of your life." As Under slowly approached him, Marcus thought, "How could this happen? I tried so hard, I did everything I could. Why is this world so cruel? All the people from Irene's community were killed and kidnapped, the bandits on the road killed people in cold blood just for some goods. Why am I the one beaten and battered when these people are the worst that society has to offer? Why do I hold back and not kill when no one does the same? Why should I stay my hand against this monster? Why? I know I should just kill him." There was no need for this sense of misplaced morality. Irene did not only want to save her little sister, she wanted vengeance as well. When Marcus had finally accepted the entirety of Irene's last wish, the fragment of Irene's soul resonated and merged with Marcus's. Under, noticing a change in the atmosphere, suddenly stopped and watched as Marcus got back on his feet and the temperature in the room plummeted as ice started forming around the entire warehouse. He then watched as a translucent dark purple arm whose fingers looked like claws came out of the stump of Marcus's severed arm. He watched horrified as the blood flowing out of the wound covered the arm, giving it an even more sinister appearance. Under tried to run, but fear and ice had frozen him in place, and in the next instance Marcus's ghastly arm had slammed into him, sending him hurtling across the room, through one of the cages and leaving him embedded into the wall behind it. Blood drooling out of his mouth and unable to move his broken body, Under looked down, seeing the frightening imprint of a fiendish hand on his torso. Being completely unable to move, Under could only stare in horror as Marcus slowly approached him. When Marcus was only a few feet away, his new spectral arm lashed out, grabbing Under by throat as Marcus began to slowly choke him, and Irene started speaking. "Do you remember what you did to my friends and family? How you came into the community under the pretense of wanting lumber only to kill and kidnap them? How you burned all our buildings to the ground? How when I tried to protect my little sister you killed me and threw me away like garbage?" As the fragment of Irene's soul let loose all of her feelings, Under remembered who she was, the woman with a horrible scar on her face that had hit him with a board. When Marcus saw this realization on Anders' face, he twisted his spectral arm, snapping Anders' neck before unceremoniously tossing his lifeless corpse on the ground. With the battle over, the power keeping Marcus going instantly vanished and he passed out completely exhausted. See 41-40 message from the administrator. Marcus, having used everything he had and more to beat Under, was currently in a state of unconsciousness. The battle had taken a toll on Marcus like no other, leaving not only Irene's body in tatters but also Marcus's soul. What the hell happened? I feel like I got run over by a steamroller. Where the hell am I? Everything around me is just a big white space. Looking around, all Marcus could see was endless white light that went on for infinity, until he looked down at his own form to see that it looked like grated cheese. Fuck, what the hell happened to me? Did I die again and this time I got sent to purgatory? Holy shit, what are those? Why are there tiny glowing spiders crawling all over me? I absolutely hate spiders. Internally screaming as he had a great fear of spiders, Marcus could do nothing but watch as they crawled all over his body. After panicking for a few minutes, he finally noticed what the spiders were doing. He saw that they were crawling around his body and using their thread and a sharp needle-shaped leg to sew him back together. This seemed to go on for days as Marcus could feel himself slowly being put back into one piece. When he was complete again, he watched as all the spiders simultaneously jumped into the white void, soon falling out of Marcus's sight. After all the spiders were gone, a white orb floated in front of Marcus before it took the form of a familiar person. Standing in front of Marcus was Irene, who uttered her final words to him, "Thank you." And with those last words she turned back into an orb of light and flew into Marcus's chest. Ellipsis. Waking up with a start as he was shunted out of Irene's body, Marcus stared around at the scene in front of him in surprise. While it had felt like days had passed for him, it appeared that it had only been a few minutes, as the ice he had created was only just starting to melt. After looking around the warehouse, Marcus noticed two things: one, that the tether linking him to Irene's body had disappeared, and two, that he could see the stitches holding his soul together. Damn, I guess that was not a weird hallucinations. I must have broken the soul tether and now my soul has taken permanent damage. I should look over my status and see how bad things are. Status. Name: Marcus Ferris. Age: 28. Ads by PubFuture. Race: Unbound Ghost. Level: 15. HP: 626 120ths. MP: 474 170ths. STR: +39. AGL: 38. VIT: +38. Int: 47. SPR: 62. Stat points: 80. Skill points: 25. Unique skills: Personal status, #######. Skills: Small item box, Lesser regeneration LVL1, Digging LVL1, Fighting LVL2, Magic circulation LVL2, Iron magic LVL2, Disassembly LVL2, Stealth LVL2, Lightning magic LVL2, Creature appraisal LVL2, Fire magic LVL1, Danger sense LVL2, Dark vision LVL1, Scythemanship, Superior LVL2, Healing magic LVL1. Blessing of Iron. Race abilities: Invisible, Ethereal, Chill Zone, Float, Possession, Limited, Undying. Ads by PubFuture. Possessed race abilities: Spectre powers, Ghost sounds, Spectral arm. After looking over his status and personal log for over a dozen minutes, Marcus was still dumbfounded. What the hell happened to me? I am suddenly level 15, and I can sort of understand that since I just killed Onder, but the soul tether is also gone now, and when I check my log there is just a huge wall of error messages, with the last one being system rebooting. Also, my spirit stat has increased for no reason, my possession ability is now limited, I have a new spectre power, and probably the weirdest thing is that I have a new unique skill that I cannot get any information on. While thoroughly looking over his status, Marcus suddenly heard a loud ding. You have mail. Before a new message appeared in his log. A bit hesitant to open the abrupt and abnormal mail, he soon received another ding. Opened the mail, and he realized that this was probably not optional. Opening the mail, the following message appeared in his head. Hello there, Marcus, it is good to see that you are back in one piece. I normally would not get so personally involved with anyone, but I cannot let my favorite transfer destroy himself. Also, since you seem a bit confused, allow me to enlighten you about what happened. During your fight with whatever his name was, you and the fragment of that girl Irene created a really nasty power that is well beyond your current ability. That power, while allowing you to beat far stronger opponents, shredded your soul into hundreds of pieces, and had I not intervened your soul would have dissipated. As such, I have currently sealed away that power, since if you used it again before you were ready, even I would be unable to do anything. Also, while I did put you back together, as you can see, your soul is still only being held together by threads, so I have limited your possession ability to 10 minutes a day, so you do not unravel yourself. When you reach level 40, I will release this limit, but until then sorry, you will have to deal with it. Luckily for you, I am not heartless. As a consolation for sealing some of your abilities, I have sent you a unique skill orb that will be most helpful for you. Your favorite administrator. P.S. This is the second time I have had to personally help you, and there will not be another, so I recommend you stop trying to break my system. After the message was finished playing in his head, Marcus's brain was overwhelmed, and if he was in a cartoon, steam would have been blowing out of his ears. This all just so weird. What is going on? I just received a personal message from that crummy administrator that put me here as a ghost, and he has sealed my new power and limited my possession ability. And that PS he left seemed really passive-aggressive, like I pissed him off or something. Oh, whatever, I am still alive and kicking, and even with the soul tether gone, I still intend to see Irene's last wish through. Now, let me see what this unique skill orb has. Looking at his log and seeing that the last message had a little gift icon, Marcus clicked on it and a vibrant golden orb appeared in his hands. Marcus then saw a message appear that said, "Would you like to learn the unique skill, Solid Soul?" Immediately understanding how powerful this ability would be, Marcus quickly learned it and activated it. Once activated, Marcus could feel his ethereal body becoming solidified, and soon he was able to physically interact with the world again. This is great. Now I do not have to possess other creatures' bodies, especially since Irene's has seen better days. Hopefully, she can forgive me for the sorry state I left it in, since I did succeed in fulfilling her last request. Now I need to finish up here before anyone else comes by. Marcus then moved to pick up his side when he noticed something was a bit off about his new solid form. He had expected to look like he did back on Earth, however, he still looked like Irene. What the hell? I know I have been in her body for nearly 2 months now, but I still have the soul of a man. Turning his solid soul skill off, when he was back in his spiritual form, he noticed that he still looked like Irene. He then focused on himself, trying to feel why he was stuck as Irene, and when he pictured himself looking like he did originally, his appearance changed back. Fascinated by his new ability, Marcus switched between himself and Irene multiple times before he was satisfied. Now this could be useful. I can seamlessly switch between myself and Irene. Now that I think about it, the fragment of her soul did merge with me, so it makes sense that I can still take her shape. Solidifying himself once again, this time in his original appearance, Marcus collected his scythe and stored Irene's body ready to finish the job he had started. C42-41 saving Lilia. With his scythe in hand, Marcus moved over towards the unconscious Osman and jammed the point of his scythe into his throat. After that, he did the same to the remaining unconscious grunts in the warehouse. He then collected all of the valuables off of their bodies and was happily surprised by what he found on Onder. I guess being the leader of a group of criminals can be profitable. He has some type of magic storage bag like Paulson and Wade did, and his sword is made out of some type of metal I have never seen. Dropping his spoils into the magic bag, Marcus also found a key ring hidden in one of Ander's pockets. With the keys in hand, Marcus walked back over to the cage that Lilia was being kept in. Should I use Irene's appearance, or should I continue using my own? A familiar face might help the girl calm down, but I do not plan on being her sister for the rest of her life. Weighing the pros and cons, Marcus eventually decided to stay as his original appearance so as not to give the girl false hope that her sister was alive. Standing in front of the cage that Lilia was in, he could see the brown-haired little girl with a striking resemblance to Irene huddled in a corner, shivering from fear and cold. Flipping through the keys, Marcus soon found the one that unlocked the cage, and when he entered, and Lilia saw him, she curled up into a ball facing away from him as if he was a monster. I guess the poor thing is traumatized, but luckily for her I am not a monster. Well, I am, but I'm not a bad monster. As he approached Lilia, she gave of a scared shriek when she could feel Marcus standing over her. Marcus's heart hurt a bit at this, since on this world this little girl could be considered the closest thing he has to family. I know I am not Irene, but some of her memories and a part of her resides in me, so in a way Lilia is like my little sister. Oh well, I have no plans to live with and raise her, but I will do what I can to help here and there. While Marcus was thinking, Lilia had closing her eyes and waiting for something horrible to happen to her, except nothing ever came, and she eventually turned around to see Marcus staring off into space with a pensive look on his face. When Marcus noticed Lilia had turned around, He put on his brightest smile and crouched down before saying, "Hello there Lilia, my name is Marcus and your big sister Irene sent me to come rescue you, so if you would come over here, I can take that uncomfortable collar off of you." Looking at Marcus with a dumbfounded expression for a few moments, when she finished processing what Marcus had said, a glimmer of hope twinkled in her eyes before she responded. "Big sister Irene sent you, where is she? Is she nearby? Can you take me to her? I want my sister." Hit with a bombardment of questions he did not want to answer, Marcus wished he had never mentioned Irene, but it was too late now and he was going to have to live with it. "I am sorry little Lilia, but Irene did not make it. She did everything she could to save you, and when that was not enough, she had me promise to do it in her stead. I know that it is hard to lose a sibling, but I promised Irene that I would save you, so here I am." Looking at Marcus, tears started to well in Lilia's eyes before she started bawling, screaming about how she missed her sister and wanted things to go back to normal. Seeing that she was not going to stop anytime soon, Marcus moved over and hugged Lilia, letting her cry into his shirt until she cried herself unconscious. I definitely need to learn better tact. Next time I rescue someone, the first thing I mention should not be their dead sister. Though in some ways this might be easier since I do not have to deal with a scared child anymore." After letting go of Lilia, Marcus rifled through Anders' keys until he found the right one. Marcus then inserted the key and unlocked the collar, and he heard a click and some runes lit up on the collar before it popped off. Having freed Lilia, Marcus picked her up and went around the other cages, releasing the people from Irene's community first. He told each of them the same story about how Irene had tasked him to save them and how she did not make it. Once all of them were freed, he handed Lilia off to one of the older women before freeing the rest of the people in cages. With everyone freed, Marcus led the formerly kidnapped people out of the warehouse. He then directed the group to head east towards the center of Lorsen to find some guards that could help them and that he would catch up in a few moments. After the group had moved a little ways away, Marcus ran back into the alley where he had left the outside guards and quickly dispatched them before he piled all of the bodies together and lit the rest of the warehouse on fire. Not staying to watch the place burn, Marcus ran in the direction of the people he had just rescued. On the way there, as the fire intensified, Marcus heard a familiar ding. "You have leveled up to level 16. Not very surprised, Marcus figured that the remaining magical beast in the warehouse had pushed him over the threshold to the next level. After running for a few minutes, Marcus caught up to the group to see that multiple guards were surrounding them, looking a bit perturbed to have to deal with such a hassle this early in the morning. Having confirmed that Lilia and the others were being taken care of, Marcus deactivated his solid form, not wanting to be on any sort of record since Onder was supposed to be backed by some power in the city. Ads by PubFuture. Marcus, wanting to make sure that Lilia was okay, shadowed her for a few days, checking that she was not neglected. After a few days, the people that had been displaced by the slavers were let go to have to fend for themselves. I guess that is medieval society for you. There are no social programs to help people that have been kidnapped and displaced. Once the group that Lilia was a part of had separated from the rest, Marcus appeared before them to help them out once again. All of the people, recognizing him as their savior, immediately started to heap praise upon him, thanking him for rescuing them. "You are all welcome. I was just following the last wish of my friend Irene, so there is no need to repay me in any way, and in fact, if you want to head home, I can get you back, or if you want to stay here, I can help you find a place to stay for a little while." The group then started discussing about whether they wanted to stay or take the long trip home. All of the mothers and children decided they wanted to head home, but a few of the young adult women without any family left decided stay. With everyone having made their decisions, Marcus began leading them towards the Adventurers Guild. Once he was outside the entrance to the guild, he took out the bag he obtained from Onder and brought out 5 silver for each of the 6 girls that were staying. Now that he had given them some money, he told them that they were on their own and wished them good luck. He then led the remaining 14 people inside the guild hall and told them to wait while he talked to one of the receptionists. Choosing the booth, who was manned by a middle-aged woman with blonde hair who seemed to be the most professional, Marcus waited in line. Once he arrived at the front, the woman asked him, "What can I do for you today, sir?" "I have a group of 14 women and children who have been displaced by illegal slavery and they want to go home. I am here to hire a group of adventurers to escort them back." After telling her the job he needed done, Marcus took out a large pouch of coins and counted out 40 gold from it. The receptionist, a true professional, did not get flustered or even bat an eye. I would like to hire a maximum of 10 guards, each one receiving 4 gold upon completion. I would like the quest to be ranked at steel, and the date to be set 5 days from now. The receptionist nodded and handed Marcus some forms to fill out, offering to help him if he could not read and write. With the request set up, Marcus headed back over to Lilia and the others, and he pulled out another pouch of money and handed it to the de facto leader of the group. Here, there is 30 gold worth of assorted coins in here. Use them to pay for lodging nearby and to pick up any supplies you all might need. Marcus then pulled her in close and whispered in her ear. And just to make certain, you will not run away with this money or spend it selfishly. I will be watching you. My main objective is to keep Lilia safe, and if you do anything that I feel jeopardizes her, I will not hesitate to end you. Pulling away from the woman he just terrified, Marcus then walked over to Lilia and pulled her aside. Hey there kid, this is goodbye for now, but I promise to come and visit you sometime in the future. I know this has been hard on you, but your big sister would want you to grow up healthy and strong, so do you best for her. Also, this is for you in case you ever need money for anything, but make sure not to show it to anybody lightly or you may attract some unsavory people. Marcus then put a small pouch containing 30 copper, 10 silver, and 3 gold into Lilia's hand, and as he was about to get up, she jumped on him, giving him a tight hug as she began crying. Hugging her back and consoling her for a few minutes, Marcus eventually had to pry her off and send her back to the rest of her group. See 43-42. The adventure begins. With 5 days until Lilia and her group were to depart, Marcus made sure to keep an invisible eye on her until the day for her to leave had come. He watched as all of them piled into the carts they had bought for the journey home and inspected the 10 adventurers that were to be their guards. Finding that the lowest level among them was 14 and the highest was beyond what he could see, Marcus felt satisfied that they would be protected. He then followed them all the way to the city gates, and as they were waiting to exit, he entered the cart Lilia was in and deposited an urn with a note from him attached to it that contained the ashes of Irene's body under her seat. With his final gesture for Lilia done and his goal of saving her complete, Marcus flew back into the city. You have leveled up to level 17. A bit surprised by the sudden level up, Marcus checked his log and found this message there. Congratulations, you rescued the little girl. Well, now I have gained 6 levels just saving Lilia. I really do want to go with her to make sure she is okay, but I know that if I had gotten any more attached to her, I was not going to be able to leave. Having come into a huge influx of skill and stat points, Marcus was busy deciding what he was going to do with all of them. With a total of 37 skill points and 120 stat points, Marcus had a lot to think about. He first decided to distribute his stat points completely evenly so as to not have some of his stats lag behind the others. With that done, he now had to decide what to do with his skill points, and with the amount he had, there were now dozens of skills he could get that he could never afford before. Ow, there are so many good skills that I have access to that it is difficult to decide what to do. Do I spend a ton of them on 1 or 2 powerful skills, or do I keep myself balanced with a bunch of cheap but useful skills? I could also just pump the skills I already have as high as I can. After much contemplation, Marcus decided to stick with methods 2 and 3. There certainly were some powerful skills like space magic or future sight, but Marcus figured they would not be that strong at level 1 anyways. So, he instead purchased less powerful but useful skills, such as mana regeneration, speed burst, mana body, powerful slash, physical resistance, and heightened spells. Having spent 11 skill point buying these skill, Marcus had 26 more for upgrades. Now which skill should I upgrade? Definitely my scythemanship, iron magic, and mana regeneration. Considering his options for nearly 3 hours, Marcus finally decided how to use his remaining skill points. That should do. Now let me see how my new status is. Status. Name: Marcus Ferris. Age: 28. Race: Unbound Ghost. Level: 17. HP: 860 860ths. MP: 710 710ths. STR: plus 65. AGL: 62. VIT: plus 64. INT: 71. SPR: 86. Stat points: 0. Skill points: 3. Ads by PubFuture. Unique skills: personal status, ######, solid soul. Skills: small item box, lesser regeneration LVL1, Digging LVL1, Fighting LVL2, Magic Circulation LVL3, Iron Magic LVL3, Disassembly LVL2, Stealth LVL2, Lightning Magic LVL2, Creature Appraisal LVL2, Fire Magic LVL1, Danger Sense LVL2, Dark Vision LVL1, Scythemanship, Superior LVL4, Healing Magic LVL1, Mana Regeneration LVL2, Speed Burst LVL2, Mana Body LVL2, Powerful Slash LVL1, Physical Resistance LVL1, Heightened Spells LVL1. Blessing of Iron. Race abilities: Invisible, Ethereal, Chill Zone, Float, Possession, Limited, Undying. Possessed race abilities: Spectre powers, Ghost sounds, Spectral arm. I am looking pretty good. I know that the average level for every intelligent creature is 13, so I am now much stronger than most people. My problem now is what I should do next. Since I have arrived on this world, I have been either stuck in the middle of the planet's core trying to save Lilia. I have nearly infinite possibilities, like becoming a royal investigator, just exploring this world, or continuing to be an adventurer. The problem with gallivanting around the world is that I only know the one long, and I do not have any more tokens that let me learn them instantly. I could be a royal investigator, but if they find out I am a ghost, I may get hunted down by people many times my level. I guess I should just adventure for a while to build up my level and gear, and then I can figure out what to do when I get bored of it. I have everlasting life so long as my soul is not destroyed, so there will be plenty of time for me to find out everything this world has to offer. Having decided to try being a proper adventurer for a while, Marcus floated his way towards the guild hall to find some requests to sink his time into. Upon his arrival, he had one more major decision to make. Should I register as myself or just keep using Irene, since I am already an adventurer under her name? I really do not want to go through the registration process again, and I already have one job completed as Irene, so I can always just accept the requests in her form and switch back while actually doing the job. Switching back into Irene, Marcus found a deserted alley to solidify in and then walked into the guild hall and headed straight for the request board. Impressive, there seemed to be dozens of more requests than there were in River Landing. Now which ones should I take? After looking over the copper requests, Marcus decided not to go for any of them, since even the hardest one was to hunt some type of oversized beavers. Looking over the bronze requests, Marcus found many just asking for small light green magic cores, and he had enough to complete 3 of them already. Taking those as well as a request for the bodies of 7 bubbling crabs, Marcus headed for one of the receptionists. When he got to the front of the line, he handed her the request tags and his adventure card. As she looked over it, she had a skeptical look on her face before saying, "I am afraid that copper adventures can only have 2 active requests at a time, so you will need to pick which of these you want." This is one of the reasons I did not want to re-register as Marcus, since being a copper adventurer is more like being on probation. Marcus then asked if he could complete 2 of the requests right now, since he already had the magic cores on him, and the receptionist begrudgingly told him that he could. Handing over 20 magic cores, Marcus successfully completed the 2 jobs and received 42 copper as payment. He then registered for the 2 remaining requests and asked the receptionist one more question. "It says that the bubbling crabs are located in the Ocean Bluff Temple, but could you tell me where that is?" The receptionist then looked at Marcus like how a doctor looks at a patient who they just found something really wrong with. Shaking her head and sighing, she then said, "You must not be from around here if you do not know about the Ocean Bluff Temple. It is one of only 3 dungeons in the entire kingdom, and one of the reasons that Lorsend is so prosperous. You can find it at the northwestern end of the city just outside the gates. You cannot miss it. Also, I do not have time to give you every detail about it, so if you want to know more, there is a library upstairs, and if you cannot read, there are people selling their services to read for you. Have a good day." Now that he'd signed up for the 2 remaining requests he had to complete to advance to the next rank, Marcus headed upstairs ready to read everything he could about the Ocean Bluff Temple. See 44-43 Learning and Destination. When he made it to the top of the stairs, Marcus could see a dozen rows of books with many people sitting at tables reading or listening to others read for them. Marcus then started to head towards the shelves to look for books that had information on the Ocean Bluff Temple when a young boy in fairly nice clothes approached him. "Hello there, miss, did you need someone to read you some books? I am a very skilled with reading and writing and come pretty cheap, only 20 copper an hour. Surprised by the sudden proposition this kid had given him, Marcus brushed him off saying, "No, thanks, I know how to read and write myself." However, when he tried to walk away, the boy still stood in front of him, persisting to sell his services. "Are you sure, miss? Being self-taught often leaves gaps in your knowledge, and the books here are often very difficult to follow. I have had a proper education by an accredited tutor and am certain my skills can help you understand the finer details in each book." Perturbed by the kid's insistence, Marcus tried to politely get the kid to leave him alone, but the boy seemed to not be willing to take no for an answer. Finally, after telling the kid he would get someone from the guild if he did not stop harassing him, the boy relented. Ads by PubFuture. "Man, that kid was annoying. I do not know why he was so insistent. There will be other people he can sell his services to later." Now that he was free, Marcus approached the shelves of books and began searching for any that had information on the Ocean Bluff Temple. While he was scanning through the books, another adventurer came up to him and started up another conversation. "You really dodged a bullet there. Lars is the worst reader up here, and while his prices are only around a fifth of everyone else, he takes about 10 times as long." Looking at the man but not in the mood to strike up a conversation, Marcus simply nodded his head in agreement and went back to looking through the shelves. The man, obviously not picking up on Marcus's wish to not be bothered, continued speaking. "The name's Leaf. You must be new around here, since there is no way I would not remember someone that stands out like you. Since you are looking at books, are you perhaps planning on going to the Ocean Bluff Temple? Me and my party go there all the time, and as steel adventurers we have a lot of experience. If you want, we can take you with us the next time and show you the ropes while keeping you safe." Marcus then checked his level, finding that he was only level 14, and any interest he had in partying up vanished. "While I appreciate the offer, I am only a copper adventurer and am currently trying to focus on learning the ropes myself, but if the opportunity presents itself in the future, I may take you up on that offer." Looking disappointed, the man walked away, leaving Marcus to his own devices. Finally, without any distractions, Marcus went back to searching through the books, and after just a short time searching, he found one that focused on the Ocean Bluff Temple. Finding a quiet corner where no one else was, Marcus sat down and started reading through the book. Spending hours engrossed in the book, Marcus found out a good deal about the Ocean Bluff Temple and dungeons in general. With his abounding amount of new knowledge, Marcus felt ready to head over to the Ocean Bluff Temple. "I should try to purchase a map for the dungeon's current configuration. Since the year is already more than halfway over, they should have a pretty detailed map of at least the first level." Ads by PubFuture. Pokemon Card EVs U Nagaba Promo 062070 SVP Pokemon Center Japanese NM. eBay US. Heading on back down, Marcus waited in line for over 2 hours since he had unfortunately finished up reading during the busiest time of day. After his long wait, Marcus asked the receptionist if they had any maps of the first level of the Ocean Bluff Temple and was able to purchase one for 10 silver. "Damn, that was expensive. I know I got a lot of money off of Onder and his goons, but after paying for the quest, giving money to Lilia and her group, as well as miscellaneous things like this map, I only have around 18 gold left. I can probably get some money from selling Anders' sword, but it could lead trouble to me, so I think I will hold on to it for now." With map in hand, Marcus made his way back onto the bustling streets of Lorsend and found a quiet place to switch his form back before heading towards the Ocean Bluff Temple. "This city is too damn big. By the time I get there, even with floating through obstacles, it will be dark. I knew I should have gotten some type of skill that let me fly, but since I can already float, I thought it would be a waste. The problem is I only float about as fast as I walk, and at this point with my stats, I can probably just jog through the city faster." Deciding to see if he could make better time jogging, Marcus landed in a quiet place before coming back onto the main road and breaking into a jog. Marcus could immediately tell that even though he had to pass around obstacles like carts and people, he was making much better time. However, after around 30 minutes of jogging, Marcus noticed something that had him stop. He saw that there was some type of giant bird taxi offering its services to transport people around the city. Intrigued, Marcus approached the owner of the bird and asked, "How much would it cost for you to take me to the northwest gate near the Ocean Bluff Temple?" The man looked over Marcus with little interest before replying, "It would cost 9 silver for me to fly you over there, but I doubt you have that much, so please make room for a paying customer." Marcus, a bit peeved, took out 9 silver from his magic pouch and handed to the bird taxi driver, and the man was shocked by how Marcus easily pulled out the money, and from a magic bag no less. Sorry, good sir, your appearance does not give away your status, and I have been approached by a substantial amount of people who were unable to pay today, and I was slightly upset by it, otherwise I never would have treated you so coldly. The man then continued a round of hollow compliments, trying to get onto Marcus' good side, probably thinking he was a wealthy merchant or someone of status. After he had finished flattering Marcus, the driver helped him mount the bird and took off. It did not take long before Marcus was flying over the city and could see the sights moving by creating a breathtaking view. While I can see the ocean from here, I have not really gotten a good look at it since coming here, but from this height the endless dazzling blue water looks amazing. Absolutely entrapped by the view in front of him, Marcus spotted a number of seagull-type birds flying around and even managed to catch some type of massive silver fish break the surface. However, the amazing scenery did not last long, only a few minutes before the giant hawk-like bird soon landed near the northwest gate. Coming back to himself, Marcus got curious and checked the driver and the bird's level. Finding that the driver was level 12, and the bird was level 11, Marcus thought that maybe he should see about procuring a giant hawk for himself. Well, I can figure that out later. Right now I really want to see what this Ocean Bluff Temple is about. I should probably be fine since the first level of the dungeon only has monsters up to level 15. Having arrived near the northwest gate, Marcus excitedly headed towards it, ready to start exploring his first dungeon. C45 to 44. Entering the dungeon. Approaching the northwest gate, Marcus noticed a large building with the words Adventures Guild posted on it and had to stop and do a double take. Unable to contain his curiosity, he headed inside the building, finding that it looked to be a legitimate part of the guild. After doing a little asking around, he found that this branch was solely for missions pertaining to the Ocean Bluff Temple. I figured people must have gotten tired of making the long walk from the dungeon all the way back to the main guild in the center of town. I mean, if I spent all day fighting tooth and nail in a dungeon, I would not want to walk over 3 hours to the main guild hall. Finished with his cursory examination, Marcus exited the smaller branch guild and continued on his way, finding the gate, and easily exiting out of the city and in the open once more. Marcus got on the road, headed towards the steep cliff that dropped off into the ocean below. After around 15 minutes of walking, Marcus had arrived at the guard station right outside the entrance to the temple. As he approached, a lazy-looking guard got up and hobbled towards him. Business for entering the temple. A bit surprised by the guard's blunt and uninterested question, Marcus took a moment before getting out his response. I am an adventurer on a request to kill some bubbling crabs. Are you a steal or hire adventure? No. Then please pay the 5 copper entry fee or go away. Damn, another entry fee? They sure do not mind charging. I mean, I guess I understand that the kingdom needs money to function, and they do not want just anybody wandering into the dungeon. Whatever, I guess I will pay this time, but going forward I will probably just sneak in. Handing the man 5 copper, Marcus was allowed to continue down the path, following some switchbacks until he stood in front of the massive temple entrance in the middle of the bluff. Now this is outstanding. It looks like the entrance to a massive Roman temple. I wonder how they even found this place, since it is situated right in the middle of a sheer cliff. They must have spotted it from the ocean, or maybe someone who could fly, like jumping off of cliffs. While being lost in his delusions, the approach of more people coming down the path to the dungeon entrance snapped Marcus back to reality, and he entered the Ocean Bluff Temple. Walking down a long set of stairs, Marcus soon came out into a large room lit by the gentle blue glow of luminescent moss. Taking a look around, Marcus saw a few other adventurers either planning their trip farther into the dungeon or resting after finishing their exploration. Pulling out his map, Marcus scanned over it, looking for the best route to get to the bubbling crabs. Ads by PubFuture. They should be down a corridor to the southeast and in a large room that is partially submerged in water. I do need to be wary of sneak attacks while traveling, since down here there are a number of monsters that specialize in stealthy ambushes. Finding the passageway that would lead him to the area the bubbling crabs lived in, Marcus began making his way towards them. Unfortunately, even with his dark vision skill, his visibility only extended for around 30 feet, and Marcus decided to use his long-neglected floating lantern spell to light the place up. That is better. Now I can see around 80 or so feet around me, and just having a bit of light is comforting. However, Marcus's new light not only acted as a means for him to see, but also as a beacon for everything else in the dungeon. As he was walking past a pool of water in the long corridor, his danger sense started blaring, and while jumping back to dodge, Marcus was grazed by a sharp needle-like harpoon. Marcus then slammed into the wall behind him, having used far too much strength dodging. Fuck, I have not done any fighting since I was level 11, and my new stats make every one of my moves more powerful. I guess this is one of the drawbacks of leveling up a bunch all at once. However, Marcus did not have long to continue contemplating his situation as the needle-like harpoon shot towards him again. Wary of his new stats, Marcus tried to use less force to dodge, only to use not enough as the harpoon slashed into his side, causing a gray mist to leak out of the wound. Looking in the direction of where the harpoon was coming from, Marcus locked onto a large 6-foot-long cone snail sitting in the pool of water. Shit, I think that is an assassin snail. How unlucky can I get? Those things are supposed to be really rare on the first level of the dungeon. It is a good thing I am not human and do not have actual blood, otherwise its venom would have already killed me. Marcus then spent dozens of more rounds dodging the strikes from the snail, trying to get a bearing on his new stats. After he had taken many more glancing blows and shallow wounds, Marcus managed to get better control over his new power. That should do. It probably is actually a good thing I ran into this guy, because a level 12 assassin snail would normally be lethal for a lot of the lower level adventure that hunt around this area. Used to his new strength, Marcus took out his scythe, and when the snail unleashed its next harpoon attack, Marcus deftly sidestepped it before bringing down his scythe and cutting the membrane that connected the harpoon to the snail. While that snail was reeling in pain, Marcus decided to try out his new tier 3 iron magic spell, Iron Sphere. Casting the spell, a sphere of iron around the size of a soccer ball appeared, and Marcus sent it flying towards the assassin snail. Perceiving the incoming threat, the snail slid into its shell, only to find that the iron sphere smashed through like it was a sheet of thin glass. Horribly injured from the iron sphere, the snail tried to run away, but being a snail, it was incredibly slow. To finish it off, Marcus pulled the iron sphere out of the snail's body and positioned it above its head before slamming the iron sphere down. With a loud squishing sound and a splash of snail juice, the snail's head was pulverized and its body went limp. I am quite pleased. Iron Sphere is an incredibly powerful spell. Having a sphere of iron I can control like I have telekinesis is really useful for both offense and defense. The only problem is that it is a huge mana sink, so I need to be conservative with it. Marcus then collected the snail's harpoon and magic core, figuring they would be worth a decent amount of money. He then decided to test the limits of his iron sphere, finding that its maximum range was equal to his spirit stat, and that the farther away from him it got, the less fine control he had. Satisfied with the results of his first battle since his mass level up and the power of his new spell, Marcus continued his way towards the goal of his job, the bubbling crabs. C 46-45 Acquaintance Misunderstanding. Coming out into a large, cavernous room, Marcus could immediately smell the salty smell of the ocean water that submerged part of the area. Looking around, Marcus saw patches of glowing crystals that faintly illuminated the room, giving it a mystical feeling. Okay, now I need to locate where the bubbling crabs are and kill 7 of them, and then, even though I do not have any other requests to complete, I think I will explore around a bit. Heading over towards the submerged part of the room, Marcus noticed that there were a few other parties of adventurers fighting different magical beasts and monsters. Giving them a wide berth so as not to come off as a threat, Marcus made his way deeper into the massive room. There they are. Having spotted a group of his quarry clattering around the corpse of some monster, Marcus rushed towards them, brandishing his scythe. The 5 3-foot-tall crabs, alerted to the approach of a hostile entity, turned around and started posturing with their claws. However, Marcus kept approaching, and with their attempt at intimidation failing, the crabs unleashed their signature ability and shot numerous bubbles towards Marcus. Knowing that the bubbles were nothing like the kind he blew on Earth, Marcus took evasive action, dodging each of the bubbles. Unfortunately, the barrage of bubbles got a bit intense, and still not fully accustomed to his new strength, one managed to strike him on the right leg. When the bubble popped, Marcus felt a searing pain as the area began sizzling as acid started to eat away at his physical form. Shit, I need to be more careful. While one of these bubbles barely does any damage, I do not really enjoy pain, and it is embarrassing to take damage from something 10 levels lower than me. Deciding to give up on trying to dodge, Marcus cast iron threads and used them to pop all of the bubbles before they reached him. Soon the crabs had exhausted all of their acid and had to stop firing off bubbles and in a rage charged towards Marcus. These crabs are pretty dumb, the only thing threatening about them are their acid bubbles, but I guess I can try out some of my new abilities on them. Marcus then summoned his dark purple spectral arm, which was noticeably smaller and had lost its fiendish appearance from when he used it against Onder. Marcus then sent it flying towards one of the crabs, and when the arm arrived, it formed a fist and punched the crab, making cracks in its shell and sending it sprawling backwards. The other 4 crabs, uncaring for their comrade, continued their charge, claws snapping. Marcus readied his scythe and took a big swing, empowering his scythe with his powerful slash skill. He felt a huge amount of his mana coalesce into the scythe and he cleaved through all of the crabs, turning them into chunks of viscera. Oops, that was a lot more powerful than I thought it would be. I doubt that I will be able to use these 4 towards the request. Having completely ruined the bodies of 4 of the bubbling crabs, Marcus approached the one he had injured earlier and with a swift stab to the head it collapsed. Marcus stored its relatively intact body into his item box and then searched around for the cores of the other 4 he had killed. I was only able to find 2 of their cores, but I guess that is to be expected since I blasted them to pieces. On the bright side, I did collect some of their legs, and while I have no need to eat, some delicious crab legs sounds pretty good. Ads by PubFuture. Pulling out a pot, Marcus filled it with water and placed his floating lantern under the pot, since trying to light a normal fire in the damp room would be nearly impossible. After around 10 minutes he had finally managed to get the pot boiling and he threw in the crab legs. While he had to protect his prize from a few interested monsters and beasts, Marcus persevered, intent on enjoying his meal. Once the crab legs had thoroughly cooked and began letting off a delicious aroma, Marcus removed them and waited a few moments for them to cool off. He then picked them up and cracked them open using his iron skin spell to reinforce his hands. Ah, that was satisfying. Fresh crab legs are on a complete different level from the frozen ones I had a couple of times on Earth. Now I probably spent way too long cooking up these legs, so it is time to locate a few more crabs to complete my request. Searching around for the 6 remaining crabs he needed, Marcus ran into a group of people he recognized. Walking towards him was the party of Iron Adventure he had traveled to Loresend with Wild Wind. As he was about to go up and talk to them, he realized that he was no longer in Irene's body, and they would not recognize him. Deciding against contacting them, Marcus simply walked past while giving a friendly smile. The group gave few polite nods before their expressions turned angry and Bryce shouted out to Marcus, "Hey you there, hold up." Quite surprised by the sudden hostility in Bryce's voice, Marcus wondered if he had misjudged their character and they were actually the type of adventurers that bullied and stole from the weak. However, he soon figured this was not the case as Bryce started interrogating Marcus. "Hello there, that is a nice side you have. Where perchance did you come across something like that? A friend of ours uses a scythe that looks really similar, so we were just wondering." Realizing what was going on, Marcus internally started to panic a bit. Shit, they totally think that I stole this weapon from Irene. The problem is that was me all along, but how do I get them off my back without a fight or exposing myself? I guess I will have to try the old "they must have a similar item" ruse and hope that works. Oh, this scythe, I had it made a few years ago by a weaponsmith here in Loresend. He said he had made a similar one in the past, so maybe that is the weapon your friend has. So, while it has been nice talking to you, if you do not mind, I have a request to complete and need to be on my way. However, when he turned around to go away, Marcus found himself surrounded on all sides by the members of Wild Wind. "Did you think we would fall for such an obvious lie? What did you do to Irene? That is definitely her scythe and there is no way she would have given it up willingly." As all of the members of Wild Wind stared angrily at Marcus, his head was spinning trying to come up with a solution to his current problem. Unfortunately, his long silence served only to further anger Bryce and his party, and the group began attacking. Marcus intent on avenging their friend. See 47-46 Marcus vs Wild Wind. Leading the charge with his sword and shield in hand, Bryce positioned himself in front of Marcus, trying to pin him down to limit the effectiveness of his scythe. Marcus, not wanting to be attacked from multiple sides, tried charging towards Harold since he was wielding a bow, but bow wielding a massive tower shield intercepted Marcus, preventing his advance. He then had to spin around quickly to bring his scythe up to block Bryce's attack that was coming from behind. Unfortunately, Jasper and Harold both took this opportunity to strike as Harold let loose an arrow towards Marcus's left leg and Jasper jabbed his spear towards his right. However, Marcus had not been idle and right before the two attacks hit. He finished chanting his spell, and iron began to cover his body, causing the arrow and spear to slide off of Marcus's enhanced skin. Ads by PubFuture. Shit, these guys really know how to work together. I am higher level than any of them, with Bryce being 15, Jasper and Bo 14 and Harold 13, but they are still pressuring me. Yet now that I have cast my iron skin spell, the only one that can realistically hurt me is Bryce, since he is the only one that can infuse mana into his weapon. I only need to create a window for around 3 seconds, and I can turn invisible and ethereal again. Continuing to fight for another few dozen seconds, even though 3 members of Wild Wind could not really hurt Marcus, they still could throw him off balance and create openings to allow Bryce to attack. Realizing that he was not going to be able to find an opening without hurting the members of Wild Wind, Marcus activated his mana body skill, enhancing his entire body. Well, I am flattered that they would go this far for Irene, but I do not plan on letting them beat me. So far they have only tried to incapacitate me, but at this rate they will wear me down, so sorry, this is going to hurt a bit. With his new enhanced physique, Marcus was able to move faster and stronger, and the next time Bo tried to shield bash him, Marcus wound up his leg and kicked with everything he had. When Marcus's iron-coated, mana-enhanced leg impacted the shield, it created a huge dent and sent Bo skidding across the floor. Seeing an opening, Bryce attempted to strike Marcus from behind, only to find that Marcus had primitively spun his scythe around and the blunt side of the blade smacked Bryce in the side of the head. With the 2 tanks taken down, Marcus had created an escape route, and to guarantee his retreat decided to try out another one of his new skills for the first time. Activating his speed burst skill, Marcus felt energy welling up in his feet and legs before he shot off like a cannon, leaving Wild Wind behind. Ads by PubFuture. Once he was out of view, Marcus quickly deactivated his solid soul skill, going back into his full ghostly form. Okay, I managed to get away from them, but I should probably find them later as Irene and clear up this misunderstanding so that the next time they see me as Marcus I do not get assaulted. But I do have to say I am satisfied with the results of my new skills, and after using them I realize that these are the skills that Under used during our fight. The only one of my new skills I have not tried now is Heightened Spells, but since it only doubles the MP cost of a spell for only a 10% boost in power, using it regularly really is not worth it. And speaking of MP, using mana body and iron skin at the same time for that long almost completely drained me. Even with my mana regeneration it is going to take me around half an hour to get back up to full. Waiting around for a couple of hours just to make sure that Wild Wind were gone, Marcus resolidified and once again began his search for more bubbling crabs. Finding a small group of 3, Marcus immediately cast his Iron Thread spell, using it to pop all of their acid bubbles. Once they had run out of acid, Marcus moved in and brought his scythe down low before swinging the point upward, stabbing into their softer underbellies. Executing this maneuver for each of the crabs, he easily defeated them all with minimal damage to their bodies. Now that I know how to fight them, they are really easy to beat, especially since I have not run into any above level 8. Only 3 more and I will be done with this request. Seeking out the last of his targets, Marcus came across not just a few bubbling crabs but a swarm of more than 20 of them. Deciding against trying to wear all of them out, he simply cast his Iron Sphere spell and sent it barreling through the crabs, turning most of them into mincemeat. Leaving 3 of them safe from his Iron Sphere onslaught, Marcus quickly moved in and finished them off, managing to cause little damage to their bodies. Having finished collecting the 7 bubbling crabs he needed, Marcus went around gathering the cores of the ones he had smashed with his Iron Sphere. That should do it. I have got all of the bubbling crabs I need, any more than 2 dozen light green magic core. I did plan on doing a bit more exploring, but I think I should head back to the guild to find Wild Wind and smooth things out with them. And while I am at it, I can rank up to bronze and finally shed the stigma of being a copper adventure. With his new plan of action decided, Marcus made his way back to the corridor that would lead him to the first room of the dungeon. Getting back with little difficulty, Marcus climbed the stairs out of the dungeon and headed back towards the nearby branch of the Adventurers Guild. C48 to 47 rank up and team up. Exiting the Ocean Bluff Temple in the dead of night, Marcus, noticing the serene sight in front of him, lost himself for a few moments in the beauty of the night sky being reflected in the calm ocean water. Whoa, when did that get there? Since I have been here, I have only seen one moon, but now a second is showing just a sliver of light. I wonder if there are even more moons if have not seen yet. This planet is much larger than Earth, so it is possible. Maybe one day I can even visit the moons, and who knows, maybe there is one with life on it. Once he had finished enjoying the beautiful sights of the ocean and sky, Marcus headed back up the switchback path that lead to the top of the bluff and the guard station. Finding that the guard station was all but abandoned with just one barely conscious guard, Marcus slipped by using his stealth skill on the off chance there was an exit fee. After leaving the guard station, Marcus made sure to check to make sure no one was around before he deactivated his solid soul, and he floated back to Loresend and phased through the city wall, not wanting to pay any more fees. Finding a quiet corner, Marcus switched back to Irene's form before heading into the Adventurers Guild branch. When Marcus entered the guild, he immediately scanned the building trying to find any of the members of Wild Wind. Within just a few moments he was able to spot them sitting at a table next to the bar on the right side of the guild hall. The group was drinking various alcohols while looking quite gloomy, and Bryce was even holding some ice to his head, which had a nasty bruise covering its right side. Damn, guess I hit him a little too hard. He probably has a concussion with how bad that looks. Oh well, hopefully they learned their lesson that you should not just randomly attack people on vague suspicions, especially when you do not know their level. Walking up to them, Marcus said, "Hey there, you all look worse for wear, especially you, Bryce. Been having some hard fights in the Ocean Bluff Temple." When the members of Wild Wind looked up and saw Marcus in his guise as Irene, they all looked completely stunned, having expect him to be dead at worst and mugged at best. After letting their minds settle for a few moments, Jasper was the first to speak up, saying, "Irene, you are all right. We thought something horrible happened to you." Marcus, expecting this, responded, "Why would you think that I have been perfectly fine? I finished what I needed to do, and I just completed the first request I had inside the Ocean Bluff Temple. The thing is, we ran into a guy in the dungeon, and he happened to have a scythe that looks exactly like yours, so we thought that man had done something to you and had stolen your scythe. Did you maybe lose your scythe or sell it? We thought for sure that guy had your scythe." With Wild Wind right where he wanted them, Marcus took his scythe out of his item box and showed to them that he most certainly did have it. The members of Wild Wind then experienced relief, followed quickly by regret for their stupidity in attacking a random person in the heat of the moment. Seeing the look of shame on their faces, Marcus prepared to land the final blow against them. "Wait, are you guys all beat up because you attacked this poor guy out of the blue because you thought he had stolen my scythe? While I am flattered that you all would do that for me, you really should be careful about just attacking random people, since they might kill you next time." Having hammered in the last nail, Marcus could tell that Wild Wind had learned their lesson by their downcast expressions. Feeling quite good with himself, Marcus decided to throw Bryce a bone and went over and cast Minor Heal on the horrible bruise that currently occupied the right half of his head. As the magic seeped into his skin, Bryce immediately felt relief from the horrible pain that was assailing his head. With a few more rounds of casting, the bruise had visibly receded and was now no longer a dark blue and black but a light yellow. "Thanks, Irene, that guy who we thought stole your scythe gave me a real whack on the head, but I guess I deserved it since I attacked him undeservedly. Since you are here and have finished the urgent business you had to attend to, would you like to join us on some requests? I know you said that you did not want to join our party, but how about we team up for a few jobs so we can complete some that we could not do apart? If I am working with them, I will have to limit myself a bit, such as chanting spells and not using my full ghost form. I also would need to be careful to not be injured since I do not actually bleed, but a gray mist just starts to come out of my wounds. But I could convince them to take on some steel level requests which will pay better and be more challenging. Yeah, for a few requests I see no harm in working with them." Ads by PubFuture. Having come to his decision, Marcus told Bryce that he would not mind working with them temporarily as long as they could do some steel requests. Bryce, a little hesitant, eventually decided that with Marcus's help they could probably get through a few higher level requests. "Well, I guess we should pick out a few jobs to do, but first I need to turn in my completed requests and rank up to bronze. Why don't you all look at the request board while I do that?" Going their separate ways, Marcus headed towards the receptionist counters to turn in his requests. However, it being the dead of night, there was only one receptionist on duty and Marcus had to wait in the long line with all the other late-night adventurers. Arriving at the front of the line, he could see the young lady who was working the receptionist counter had bags under her eyes and looked incredibly tired. The woman then yawned before saying, "And what can I help you with this evening?" Remembering all the late nights he used to work, Marcus felt a bit of sympathy for the young woman, especially since he figured he was about to cause her a lengthy process. "Ah, yes, I have completed these 2 requests and would like to rank up to bronze." Marcus then handed her the 2 tags for the request he had taken, and the woman looked at him with disdain when she noticed he was not carrying any bags. "Ma'am, are you messing with me? I do not see any of the bubbling crabs that were asked for by this request. If you have not actually finished this request, please leave the line so I can serve the other people waiting." Marcus, realizing his blunder, said, "Sorry, I should have taken them out first before handing you the tags." Marcus then plopped the 7 bubbling crabs and 10 magic cores out of his item box to show that he had completed the requests. This caused no end of shock for the receptionist and the other adventurers in the hall. While it was not unheard of for adventurers to have item boxes, they were normally people of a much higher rank and a part of a famous party. Since I have produced the requested materials, can I collect the rewards and then rank up to bronze?" With Marcus's words, the receptionist snapped out of her daze and had to go in the back to get some of the reserve employees to transfer the bubbling crabs Marcus brought in before paying him 111 copper and starting the paperwork for his rank up. "There, that should do it. Here is your new card and you are now officially bronze rank. You can now take up to iron rank requests, and once you have completed 20 more requests, one of which has to be iron, you can rank up again." Nodding his head and thanking the receptionist, Marcus headed over to the request board intent on picking out some new missions with the Wildwind Party, see 49 to 48 new requests and supplying up. Meeting back up with Wildwind, Marcus asked, "Did you find anything good?" Bryce looked up and smiled at Marcus before saying, "We sure did. There is a steel level request to wipe out a family of chuls that have taken over a section of the first level where people often mine luminescent crystals. Since chuls are one of the strongest monsters on the first level of the Ocean Bluff Temple, we normally would avoid this kind of request, but since you were with us, we figured we could handle it. We also picked out a generic magic core collection job for 50 grade 2 or higher cores. I know that magic cores have a deeper color of green the stronger the monster or beast, but how do you tell the exact grade?" Well, once we get in the dungeon, I will help you figure that out, but for the most part any creature level 10 or over is going to have a grade 2 core or higher. Now why don't you pick out a few iron level jobs, and we can get registered." Searching through the iron ranked missions, Marcus found 3 that caught his eye. The first was a mission to collect 10 pounds of scarlet carp roe, the second was for the bodies of 5 colossal shrimp, and the third to clear out a nests of dire bats that were polluting the dungeon's ecosystem. These look interesting and all of them pay out pretty well. Having selected the requests they were going to do, Marcus and Wildwind headed back to the overworked receptionist and waited in line for their turn to be served. When Wildwind and Marcus applied for their chosen requests, the receptionist looked a little surprised to see the group of people submit so many difficult requests. However, they were not breaking any rules, so she quickly registered them and sent them on their way. Before leaving though, Bryce spoke up and said to Marcus, "Ads by PubFuture. Okay, now that we have the jobs, we are going to need to gather up some supplies. Irene, you chose the request for Scarlet Carp Roe, so you will need a reinforced fishing rod and harpoon to complete that. We also will need 2 days to repair Bo's shield since it recently got damaged. So, let us meet up again here after 2 days and we can make our trek into the dungeon." Heading their separate ways, Marcus quickly found lodging at a nearby inn and paid 60 copper to stay there for 2 days. Waking up the next day, Marcus headed out intent on finding a few things that would be helpful for his upcoming missions. "The first thing I need to do is find the fishing rod and harpoon necessary for catching the scarlet carp, and then I think I should try to find a magic shop and expand my repertoire of spells." Looking around, Marcus quickly found a fishing shop that sold rods that were reinforced to withstand the power of monster fish and a large harpoon specially crafted for piercing the scales of scarlet carp. Okay, I spent around a gold for these. No wonder no one was taking those requests even though their pay was 30 silver, the startup cost is too hefty for most iron and bronze adventures. I already took the request though, and since I already bought the rod and harpoon, I can always do more Scarlet Carp row collecting missions. Now let me locate a magic shop and hope they have some cool spells for me. Searching around for a magic shop, Marcus had to travel deep into the interior of Lorsend before he came across a large 4-story tall build called Lewalt's Vault of Magic. Walking inside, Marcus immediately could tell that this shop was different from the last one he had gone to. Finding dozens of people looking around and numerous items for sale, Marcus was nearly overwhelmed by the sum of the things he saw. Wands, staffs, hundreds of alchemical items I have never seen, and there is even a flying carpet behind a glass case over there. Shit, 2,000 gold, who do they think is going to be able to afford that for a flying rug? These wands all have basic spells stored in them like fire shot, and the staffs apparently help increase the power of spells and lower the cost of mana. But damn, is everything in here expensive. Just the basic fire shot wand cost 2 gold and they even eventually run out of charges. I only have around 17 gold left, hopefully I can purchase a few good spells at least. Finding an employee sitting behind a counter, Marcus asked, "Do you sell any fire, lightning or iron magic spells?" Ads by PubFuture. The employee, looking up from her book, seemed disinterested and responded saying, "Yeah, we have spells of fire and lightning magic for sale, but we do not have any for iron since that is a relatively rare type of magic. Could I see the spells of fire and lightning magic you have for sale then? I guess, but just so you know, I can only sell you spells up to tier 2 unless you have a license from the city." "That is fine." The woman then got up and leisurely grabbed a few scrolls before coming back and placing them in front of Marcus. Looking over the scrolls, Marcus found that most of them were fire magic spells and 3 of them were spells he already had. After looking them all over, Marcus picked out 3 spells he thought would be useful. He picked out the tier 1 fire magic spell Searing Weapon, which coated a weapon in fire, and another tier 1 fire spell, Heat Resistance. The third spell Marcus decided to get was the one he was happiest about, the tier 2 lightning magic spell Lightning Strider, which boosted the caster's speed by coating their legs in electricity. For the 2 tier 1 spells it will be 3 gold each, and the tier 2 spell will cost 8 gold, bringing your total to 14 gold. Looking at his wallet with a bit of reflectance, Marcus eventually pulled out the 14 gold and handed it to the employee. With a now bright smile, since she would receive a commission from this sale, the employee thanked Marcus and told him to come back if he was ever in any need of magic spells or items. Phew, that certainly hurt the old pocketbook, but there is no use in having money if you do not spend it on things you need. Now, let me read these spells, store their formations, and test them out. Finding a quiet alley, Marcus memorized the chants and formations and tested out each of the spells. He first tried Heat Resistance and found that his body suddenly felt cooled off, and when he hit himself with a fire shot it did almost no damage. Next, he tried out Searing Weapon on his scythe and watched as the metal on the blade became red hot before bursting into flames. Giving it a few practice swings, Marcus felt quite satisfied with his new ability. Finally, he cast Lightning Strider, the spell he had the highest hopes for. After casting the spell, Marcus could immediately feel his body tingling, and he found that his speed had increased by around 20%. That should do it, as I thought Lightning Strider is the best spell of the lot, and when I combine it with Speed Burst, I can reach truly terrifying speeds. I may even be able to outrun a cheetah if I use them both in conjunction. Now there are a few miscellaneous things I need to get, like food rations and a tent, and then I will be ready for exploring the dungeon once more. Finding some general stores, Marcus purchased a relatively cheap second-hand tent and some dried food rations when he heard a large commotion coming from the direction of the Adventurers Guild. "It sounds like a festival is starting over there. I wonder what is going on. If there was some important event, I think I would have heard about it at least in passing." Curious about what all of the clamor was, Marcus made his way over towards the guild hall, hoping to find out what was the cause of the excitement. See 50-49 Royal Frost. Coming out of the back alley he had been practicing his new spells in, Marcus could see what appeared to be a large parade of people shouting out cheers of excitement. In the middle of this parade were a group of people in flashy armor that were holding up a bunch of rare-looking items. "I wonder what is going on. Who are those people? They appear to be decked out in magical equipment and they are showing off rare items like skill orbs in the street." Far too curious about what was going on, Marcus approached a random onlooker and asked them what was going on. "You mean to tell me you do not know who they are? Have you been living under a rock? They are the strongest adventurers in Lorsend, Royal Frost. They are led by the 13th princess of the kingdom and they have just come back successfully from their expedition to slay the boss of the second level of the Ocean Bluff Temple. Hearing their conversation, another random person decided to be noisy and give his 2 cents. I am afraid I have to disagree with you. While Royal Frost may be the most famous adventures in Loresend, it is undisputable that Unmovable Sea is stronger than them. As more people started to join in on the conversation of which of the top parties in Loresend were the strongest, Marcus quickly excused himself, regretting the flame war he had somehow started. These people sure are passionate about the higher level adventure parties. They are acting like people did on Earth about their favorite sports teams. Ads by PubFuture. Deciding he wanted a better look at Royal Frost, Marcus quickly ran ahead and caught up to them and unleashed his creature appraisal skill. To his expectation, the first 4 members he tried to appraise came back with the message "cannot appraise," but when he moved his focus to the blue-haired princes, the results came back "appraisal blocked." However, this is not what shocked Marcus the most. What had him really on edge was that the princess stopped and stared back at him. She then put on a chilling smile and started to approach him. Panicking, Marcus felt like he needed to run away, but he was surrounded by a crowd of people that slowly began to part as the princess grew nearer to him. "Hello there, I could not help but feel that probe you sent out. Did you not know that it is rude to try to appraise random people, especially royalty? However, I am willing to forgive you if you tell me your name. Aren't I generous?" Marcus felt the pressure that the princess was emitting and sensed that she was willing to kill him if he did not answer her. Bowing his head and giving off his most apologetic voice, Marcus said, "My name is Irene. I am sorry for disrespecting your highness. I am just a country hick that does not know manners. I swear it will not happen again." The princess then started laughing and slapping Marcus on the back as the tension in the air began to fade. "Ah ha ha, thanks for the good laugh, Irene. Walk with me back to the guild. I would like to talk with you some more." Nervously, Marcus walked back to the other members of Royal Frost, who all had quizzical looks but ultimately just shrugged their shoulders, used to the whimsical nature of their leader. "What the hell is going on? How did this happen? Is this a cruel lesson from the universe to not stick my nose where it does not belong? I do not know what type of interest this princess has in me, but I cannot imagine it is anything good. The second I find a chance, I need to escape." While it would normally have been a short walk back to the guild hall, with the added fanfare it took nearly an hour. During that time, Marcus had to awkwardly stand with the members of Royal Frost while they regaled the tale of their fight with the 4-headed Hydra floor boss, and people gawked at them and the items they had won from the dungeon. Eventually, though, the group moved inside the guild and the branch master came down and had a private room readied for the members of Royal Frost. During this time, Marcus tried to get away, but the princes grabbed his hand, intent on keeping him there. Dragged into the private room, Marcus realized he had nothing to do but be resigned to his fate or use his ghost form to escape. "I really do not want to go ghost, since I will never be able to use Irene's identity again, but if they try to do something horrible to me, I always have it as my trump card." Soon an official for the kingdom came into the private room and started inspecting the goods that Royal Frost had obtained from the boss of the second floor of the Ocean Bluff Temple. Even though he was uncomfortable, Marcus still was amazed by the items he saw. When he was reading about the Ocean Bluff Temple, he came across how when one of the floor bosses were defeated, rare treasures would appear. This allowed Marcus to recognize the ingots of mithril, ice gems, and other valuable materials that the group had. Though what could be considered the most valuable were the skill orbs and stat-increasing treasures. Marcus almost wanted to jump out and store the rare treasures into his item box and run away, but contained himself, realizing that would probably get him killed. After the kingdom official had finished appraising the goods, he handed the princes a list of what items he would buy and for what prices. The princess then handed over all of the materials that could be used for making magic items, but decided to keep the stat-boosting items and skill orbs. Marcus watched as the kingdom official took out a chest containing thousands of gold from his magic bag and handed to the princess. Ads by PubFuture. "Damn, that is a lot of money. I understand that those were rare materials, but there must have been at least 5,000 gold in that chest. From what I read, the boss of the second floor is usually between level 24 and 28, but they are always of a higher quality than most creatures at that level. I was kind of hoping I would be able to take a crack at it, but it will not respawn until the end of the year when the dungeon's formation resets. I guess I could attempt the boss of the lowest level, but it is usually between level 29 and 33 and is the strongest monster in the whole dungeon, so I doubt I could beat it. While he was thinking of his grandiose plans to fight the boss of the Ocean Bluff Temple's third level, the kingdom's official left and a private party started for the members of Royal Frost and Marcus. When are they going to let me leave? If they just wanted another person to party with, they could have just grabbed anyone else. After a while, the 13th princess came back over to Marcus and started talking to him. Hey there Irene, why do you look so glum? This is a celebration, have some wine, enjoy the food, you are not going to be able to have quality products like these every day. Looking up and from his cup, Marcus finally ran out of patience and decided he wanted to know what the princess actually wanted. Okay 13th princess, what do you want from me? I have other things to do, and I realize I should not have tried to appraise you earlier, but if you want to torture or kill me, can you just get it over with? The princess then stared at Marcus blankly for a few moments before she burst out laughing and did not stop for over a minute before she responded to Marcus. What made you think I was going to do something awful like kill or torture you? Have people been spreading weird rumors about me or something? And there is no need to address me so formally, you can call me by my name. You never told me your name, and if you are not going to kill me, can I leave? The princess shook her head a bit before standing up from her chair and saying, you must not have been lying when you said you were from the countryside. Allow me to introduce myself, I am Mrazivy Borelia, but you can call me Mraz, and I am sorry I gave you the impression I was going to kill you. I just wanted to get to know the person my cousin Wade thought so highly of. Breathing a sigh of relief now that he finally knew why the princess had been so interested in him, Marcus let the tension release from his body. So, you heard about me from Wade. That makes more sense. I seriously thought I had offended you and you decided to make me suffer for it. No, if I killed every person that tried to appraise me, there would be a mountain of corpses around the kingdom. I normally just give them a disapproving glare and move on with my life, but when I saw you, I thought of the girl my cousin had told me helped him catch Ivar. That is why I wanted to know your name to make sure, and lo and behold, it really was you. Wade normally does not talk so passionate about the people he meets, and if I did not know him better, I would have thought he was in love with you by the mountain of praise he heaped onto your shoulders. With his misunderstanding cleared up, Marcus let himself go and drank and ate to his heart's content while talking to the princess, and before long the day soon turned to night and Marcus left to go back to his inn.